Yo, 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 what's going on, people? Welcome to Throwdown, episode 223. I'm your host, Tony Polanco, and I'm joined by Emilio Lopez.
What's up, people? How's it going?
Chris Seeley.
Hey, what's up, everyone?
Carlos Romero.
Yo, yo, yo.
Brian Manjoma.
Hey, guys, what's good?
Adam Vale.
Shalom.
And Mr. Riku-san 1.
What up, what up, what up, Riku-san 1, the only one.
All
What's
right,
up,
to quote Jack Move Johnny, are we live, bruh?
Are we alive, bruh?
And I mean that
that becomes up with such a great
sincerely.
slogans.
And I mean that sincerely. Like, yo, are we live right now? We had a little bit of a snafu beforehand. We may be talking to the wind right now. Oh, no, we're live. We're good. Can you imagine that shit? The fucking show wasn't even on. Yeah, so Google decided to not have Hangouts via YouTube, which is what we've been doing forever. So we try to figure this out, and Carlos, he came through with the rescue. So, forgive, some of the it's not bad. Like, more or less everything looks the way it should, but we'll try to figure this shit out,
Yeah.
Yeah, so how's everybody doing? Hey, guys. Manny, you know how you used to do it. How you guys doing?
Hey, what's up? How's it going?
Yeah, we're waiting for Brett over here. All right, let me see. Where the head's at, man? Where the head's at? Only one head. Actually, Manny, what's going on with you? I know you can't tell us about your project, but you're still going to the city?
Yep, still heading up to New York every single day from PA.
Why don't you just stay up there for the week then at your mom's?
I don't want to wear on my welcome, and I want to sleep in my.
You're
own bed.
welcome. That's your mom.
I
No,
know.
it's that couch.
I
Man,
know.
I don't want to just constantly be sleeping on the couch. I want to go home in the evening. Want to have dinner with my girlfriend. I want to. I don't. It's not that bad. The only thing is that just leaving late, and I probably, if I go in early, I can leave early, stuff like that. So.
Are you taking the China bus to go there, or were you going to Port Authority?
Oh yeah, I'm taking the Chinatown bus, man.
Nice.
It leaves me off in Tribeca, and I just as I get off, so I get in there about 9 o'clock, and I got to be in there by 10. So I just take about a 30-minute walk from Tribeca all the way up to Flatiron, around where my job is, and do it all. So it's all good.
That Chinatown bus is like interesting because that's what Torrance uses when he comes from Boston. That's what my nephew used from North Carolina.
A lot of people,
man, it's like it literally connects every single Chinatown on the East Coast.
That's crazy.
In fact, in New York, there's a Chinatown bus that goes from the two Chinatowns that are in New York. There's one in Main Street, Queens.
Yes.
And then there's also the one in Manhattan. So there's literally a bus that goes from there, and it's cheaper than the express bus.
Wow, that's crazy. Oh, by the way, Brett is joining us. Hello, Mr. Brett.
Hello.
Yeah. So, Brett, in case you didn't know, there is no more Hangouts on YouTube, so we didn't know what the hell was going on. But thankfully, Carlos came to the rescue. he found it where it was hidden. It's crazy, man. It's always something with Google,
Yeah, I think they just ended all live streaming abilities with Google Hangouts.
Yeah, my thing is like, listen, it's like, okay, first of all, I had no idea that, where this came from, and second, if they did announce it, they did a bad job of it.
Yeah, they actually announced it quite a while ago.
Yeah, a long time ago. They were like, it's
that's crazy.
Support for it.
Yeah,
that's part of the reason why it wasn't. Remember, it was even easier to do the Hangouts before on YouTube, but now you had to go through that menu and you had to find it.
Yeah.
But now they made it even sillier, where you can't even use it. But I mean, to be honest, we're literally just doing a conference call. It doesn't matter really what application that we're using. So
yeah, we'll figure out what happens, but this looks good for now. All right, a couple of things before we start here. I want to give a huge shout out to the Discord fam. Every day, man, we're having some crazy conversations in there, so I want to thank you guys for being in there.
Discord, baby.
Yeah, man, it's crazy, Yeah, because of you guys, I'm now on Discord, because I never had Discord on unless we were doing some like streams or whatever. But yeah, I'm on there all the time now talking to you guys, so it's fucking awesome.
I haven't had a chance to look at the Discord as of late. I've been traveling so much and stuff. I haven't really been able to kind of give it a look.
You got Discord on your phone, baby, man. You can look at it there.
But
My favorite part of the Discord was somebody brought up Demon Souls, right? Chris had never been in there. This motherfucker's ears was burning. He did like Demon Souls.
Yeah, I came in there. I was like, someone say Demon Souls.
That was awesome, man.
Who touched the thermostat?
Yeah, so yeah, shout out to all those guys, man. You know, giving us good conversations and good links, man. Some of the stories we have tonight came directly from them, so shout out to them.
Good stuff.
And also, you know, because we love our Throwdown fans. And I was thinking about announcing this on Twitter, but like, now let me do one of these again just for the guys watching us now. Got another contest, people, another giveaway.
Whoa.
So for PS4 owners, I'm going to give away a code for Far Cry New Dawn. So I'm going to give this away probably halfway through the show when we get more people. And yeah, it'll be first come, first serve. You know, but brutal, man.
Cool stuff.
All right, man. So
are you going to post it in the Discord?
Yes, I am. I'm going to post
Nice.
the code in there, and you guys could, you know, Hunger Games style, you know. Well, maybe not Hunger Games style, because I don't want you guys killing each other, you know. It's crazy. Anyway, let's move on, man. So a little bit of a throwdown in the sense that we're just going to do a bunch of random stories. No pop culture stuff, though, or tech. Just talk about tech tonight, guys.
Yeah, let's do some tech.
Yeah, would you call it any action tech? That's what you guys used to do when you hosted it?
Yeah, when I hosted it, you know, because, you know, Rachel was always... Rachel's the reason why the tech and the science section of the show existed when I hosted, and she always had really awesome like links. So we always just talk about the cool new tech things that were going on at the time. So like it'd be some crazy science with nanomachines and all kinds of other crazy stuff.
Yeah, when we, you know, brought over the new Throwdown, like, we did those sparingly, but now, like, you know, over the years, we realized the fans just want to hear about fun games. They don't care about anything else, you know?
Well, no, it's not even that. It's, okay, for those of you who haven't been here from the beginning, the Throwdown started as an all-in-one inclusive tech, geek, news, video game, movie, anime podcast. And it just started growing like Tetsuo. Like, it just fucking hulked out in every way possible, in every direction possible, and it became too much to contain in one podcast. So out of that original Throwdown was born Spoiler Alert, was born Otanime, was born Throwdown, and was born Throw Down Your Questions, because it just got so beefy that we couldn't cover all the topics, so the topics all started splitting in their own show. And then the question show took off enough that it expanded the show to over 3 hours, and then we split it off into a question show, and now they're both 3 hours.
Yes, it's hilarious.
Literally, the question show started adding an additional 2 hours to the show, and it almost just, then me and Tony Trust talking about it, I'm like, hey, dude, why don't we just split it off to its own show?
Yeah, we all came to that conclusion. Like, let's just split it off into its own thing. I think maybe Brett came up with that, and then like over the months, because
that was my baby.
Yeah, that was yours, man. And Riku named that motherfucker. You know.
Yeah.
He named that.
Yeah, that was like what, on the spot. I was like, well, if the show's about questions, why can't the show just be called Throw Down Your Questions?
Yeah.
And you're just like, fucking genius. We're going with it.
Yeah, pretty much. Because it was just called the Questions Podcast. As a matter of fact, Insider Baseball shit, I still call it that. You know,
you call it the Question Show.
But yeah, Riku came up with that. Brett came up was like, yo, just split this motherfucker in two. I'm like, you know. And by the way, that was during the days when having 2 podcasts was seen as something crazy. Now on YouTube, you need to have daily content, which we ain't fucking doing, you know. But it's just interesting how that's evolved, you know. But anyway, let's get into it, man. The first up here, okay, I'm mainly just using this as an excuse to hear Brett's thoughts on Anthem, but we got some Anthem stuff. Bioware says they are listening to Anthem feedback. As you guys may or may not know, the game is not being received very well. Complaints out the wahoo here. So they're like, you know what, we're listening to you guys. We're going to implement some changes, and I know they're going to do some changes to loot and all that, updates, all this other stuff. But yeah, like I said, really excuse to just get your thoughts, Brett, because you've been playing for a week now. What do you think about the game?
Dude, I am genuinely and honestly, surprisingly, I'm loving this game. I've had so much fun playing it. It's hard to compare it to a different game. I might compare it to like Bulletstorm. I mean, there's a certain joy of just floating around the battlefield, like raining death. It's definitely got an arcadey feel, but and that's used so much in negative connotations these days, but I mean it in the most positive sense. Like, it's just fun to do the mission. Reminds me kind of Lost Planet, where you're like, yeah, I'm doing this mission for the 14th time, and I'm still enjoying it. And I've had a lot of people say the same thing, that, you know, they start playing, they're like, dude, this game is fun as fuck. Like, and notice I said fun as fuck, not necessarily this game is deep or riveting or the story moved me or any of this other stuff. Like, the game is it's just genuinely fun. Like, I feel there's probably things that can be tweaked and made better, but I'll be honest, a lot of that's above my pay grade. I don't have the time to be the super hardcore gamer that I used to be. I haven't ground in 80 hours of content already, so I'm not going to be the first one to the finish line. I'm not going to be the first one to level cap, and I'm probably not going to be lacking for content. Seems to be a big part of it. There's been a lot of complaints, and some of them I think are valid. Some of them I think aren't. You know, it kind of reminds me of the reviews for, I'm going to go a little sidetrack here. I read a lot of reviews for Battle Angel Alita, and it got just fucking critic slammed. And everybody I've talked to said they loved the movie, and it was a fun movie. It wasn't, you know,
I saw halfway. I was at the theater when we saw. We loved it until
we're not going to get into Alita right now. But Brett, go ahead. Go ahead. I know where you're going.
My point was this: a lot of the critics' complaints were, we've seen this world before. We just saw something similar with Ready Player One. This was already explored with Blade Runner. To which my point was, who the fuck cares? Like, I like sci-fi settings. I'm okay if we have another sci-fi game. If we want to recycle a world that I think is successful and fun, I have no problem with that. And that's kind of the thing I'm running into with Anthem, is I think a lot of people just kind of have genre fatigue on this kind of thing. And I just, to a certain extent, I don't understand the you know, sci-fi fantasy kind of hybrid, like that super high, almost quasi-magic sci-fi that Destiny definitely does. I don't think Destiny is the only one that can do that, and I don't really have fatigue in it. Plus, the flying mechanics are the most on-point thing I've seen since DC Universe, actually probably a little bit better. It reminds me a lot of Spider-Man, where you can start off doing some basic stuff, and then you can get into some really cool trick shots and trick flying. I've had people, you know, not to humble brag, but I am damn good at the flight mechanics. I have several friends who go cross-eyed every time they watch me play. They're like, man, I'm going to play a Juggernaut. I can't do all this flying and twisting and shit. It's going to make me barf. But the fact that each of the classes plays so differently it really makes you able to, it almost feels like playing 4 games. It's kind of like Monster Hunter. Each of the javelins controls very differently. So, yeah, I think that there's a couple problems there. I've run into a couple connection issues. I don't get pissed about the same things that other people do. Like, yeah, I'm level 17 and I'll run a dungeon, and sometimes I'll get drops that range from, you know, white common drops, green uncommon drops, and then blue rare drops. People are pissed off that they're still getting, you know, white drops at end game. That's just kind of, that doesn't bother me. It seems like there's so many people that are projecting what they think this game should be over top of it, they can't appreciate what the game actually is. And it doesn't have the same normal BioWare fanfare, but I was actually kind of intrigued. This has a way more in-depth story and world affection system than I was used to. You know, as I'm doing things and I'm upgrading my reputation, the fort that I'm working in is like slowly getting upgraded and built, and you know, the pond's getting cleaned out. New people are erecting statues, and people are making callbacks to conversations that I've had before. Answers that I've given people are clearly affecting the trajectory of the story. I'm not sure how deep that is, but even in the very first mission, I shot a rabbit, and the guy on my radio was like, "You do realize you just orphaned a family of baby bunnies somewhere?" And ever since then, everybody's like kept making fun of me and calling me Rabbit Slayer. Like, this should be no problem for the great and terrible Rabbit Slayer. Like, there's weird little callback things that kind of hint towards the game is paying attention to your choices, but that could be all smoke and mirrors. The bottom line is, though, I'm having fun, and I feel like every one of these games launches with a rocky start. I feel like every live, online service game like this is going to have a problem, and it always has since the days of World of Warcraft. So is it having problems? I mean, yeah, sure, I guess. I've been hearing about a lot of them. Have I been experiencing them? Not really. And again, this isn't, Fallout 76 stuff where I'm just not seeing bugs that happen. I get people are having DC issues, and I get that there is a fair amount of righteous anger for it not being optimized on PC. That's a big one, but
Yeah, I think Isaac has been talking in the chat that he's having sound issues, I think.
Yeah, he's having sound issues. I think some of his progress is being lost. Like, he's having some big fucking issues.
Yeah, the PC thing, that's kind of an issue. And I'm actually split on that. I kind of want to get your impressions on this. Remember back in the day when they would design a video game for one console and it would run wonky on another console?
Yeah, last generation, you know?
Yeah, like that's a thing that happens. And I think part of the thing that's happening to the PC crowd right now is they're not designing for the PC. They're designing for the console because that's where most of their sales are. Which means all of a sudden this generation, PC's getting the issue of being poorly optimized for a lot of their games. I don't think that this is a new thing. I think this is a new thing for PC owners, though. And I think this is making them very vocally upset. I completely understand why. I'm not saying it's not justified, but I'm also saying it's not new. So
interesting.
I'm trying to live in the real world. I'm trying to live in the world of games that we've had, games that we've seen succeed. Like, yes, if you asked me, is this game a perfect theoretical 10? Like, no way in hell. Like, I don't want to compare this game to what I think it should be or what I think it could be. I just try and experience it for what it like. I don't want to eat a peanut butter and jelly sandwich that may be the best peanut butter and jelly sandwich I've ever had and be upset because it's not steak.
Is that what you think? Is that what you think people's main beef is?
Absolutely. I think a lot of people are saying this isn't a Bioware game. They're so used to, imagine if Reese's came out with a chocolate bar that didn't have peanut butter in it. People would flip the fuck out, even if it was the most delicious chocolate bar ever.
I don't think that's the issue, because we all watched when we first saw the announcement. I think everybody just assumed that this was going to be the Mass Effect trilogy, like a continuation of that. That's what they were hoping for, and that's not what this is. So they feel let down. That's all.
Always say, well, they wanted a continuation of the kind of game that Mass Effect. They were never said that this game was Mass Effect. But see, that's the thing that I'm saying. Like, you're mad at Anthem for not being another Mass Effect. That's like being mad at one brother because they're not their other brother. Like, this isn't a Mass Effect game. This isn't replacing a Mass Effect game, unless you're talking about the talent that was pulled off of Andromeda. And in that instance, I guess I get it a little bit, but that's one of those instances where that's judging the game based on what you think it should be, or where you think that BioWare should be focusing their efforts.
Well, that's what people do. We saw with the Ghostbusters movie. People, that's not what they wanted.
That movie was hot garbage.
Well, either way, the people hated right off the bat when they were like, I don't care. This is just not what I wanted. That's all.
No, and I absolutely understand that. And I'm not saying that that's necessarily wrong. I'm just saying that I think that there should be some line there. I think a lot of the hate that it is getting is because people are expecting something different from BioWare, or they don't like the fact that there's a lot of politics that are going into the judging of this game.
Yeah, and what's interesting, it's like a consensus too. It's like the critics don't like it and the user base doesn't like it. So it's like, who do you like? Do you trust like someone like Brett that like swears by the game, or like you don't even know who to trust anymore because it's like it's all over the place. So I don't know. But then again,
this game needs a permanent demo so everybody could just try it out. That's what it needs.
That would be helpful. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think it. And I'm treading into what the area that I said that I don't want to tread into. There are things that I would like to see the game have. There are things that fall on the side of the fence of this is standard and it should fucking be here, like waypoints in exploration mode, and that's what some of the things that they say, okay, we're listening to the community. I kind of get the impression that they don't give you waypoints because they don't want you teleporting around the map. They want you flying around the map and finding stuff. And having watched enough games develop and seen enough game developer journals and blogs and shit like that, like there is a certain amount of pain in the assery in game development. If you make things too easy, it makes the game boring. If you let them just teleport anywhere they want right away, it removes the want to fly somewhere or explore somewhere. So I can get even in that, like, I don't even know if it was overlooked as much as they had the incorrect idea, incorrect all in capital letters of, well, let's make them fly through the zone. That way they'll get into random battles and find random treasure. They just can't teleport to the thing they need, do it, and leave.
But I mean, the thing is that like the thing that goes around that is the traversal fun enough for you to do fast travel? See, like you have waypoints, like in Spider-Man. You know, a lot of times what happens, you know, you do have the ability to fast travel to any part of the game. You know, certain parts of the game just by using the subway. But the traversal within the game is so fun that you end up just taking the long way because people just like swinging around.
And yes, I do think it's that way, which is why what leads me to believe that they thought that it wasn't necessary to add a whole bunch of travel. Because, like, I'll be honest, the locomotion and the movement of the game, the traversal of the game, is the most fun I've had since Spider-Man. Maybe before. And Spider-Man was the most fun I had movement-wise since DC Universe. So there's kind of a theme going there, but they really did just the flight mechanics. They nailed that shit just as well as Spider-Man nailed swinging mechanics. And that's where a big portion of my love for this game comes from. Because otherwise, yeah, it is kind of a third-person Destiny with a little bit of Mass Effect kind of flavor to it. It's a weird hybrid, but man, like the flying adds a whole new level to the game. And it sounds simple, but it's the same way, like, man, Halo added another thumbstick to the game. Sometimes it's a fundamental thing. And we've seen it with climbing mechanics. A lot of, you know, Breath of the Wild did climbing mechanics, and now everybody's doing climbing mechanics. It was just a very simple mechanic that kind of overhauled a lot of what was there in the game.
Also, like, I think for this game, it's getting obviously a lot of fair criticism, but a lot of unfair criticism when it comes to the fact, and we've talked about this, the game was BioWare's freaking baby. Like, it's like they pushed aside their biggest franchise in Mass Effect and gave it to the B team in order to make Anthem. So everyone's waiting for this game with their arms crossed, just waiting to see what kind of game was so important that Mass Effect had to be subsided to the B team, and yeah, and also like the fact that Dragon Age isn't coming out, and it's like everyone is looking at Anthem as, let's see what you have, and it's getting a lot of unfair criticism, and it's getting a lot of fair criticism, but it's definitely split.
See, I wish we could judge developers separately from the game. Like, yes, I would probably deduct a lot of points from BioWare as a company for the actions that they've made. Like, you chose to invest in a looter shooter instead of a huge amount of fan service, and you are one of the, you know, beloved game companies. You like Bethesda. Like, Bethesda, I'm sorry, you can never stop making Elder Scrolls. I don't care how many people bitch. I don't care how many people think it's broken. There's enough people out there that fucking love that shit that if you change it, you will have a full-on revolt on your hands. As much as people talk about how janky the Bethesda system is, if they actually fixed it by, like, dumbing down the game so that you couldn't pick up every goddamn candlestick, people would be lighting fires in the fucking street. There's a certain point in which you're beholden to your customer base because you've become known for something, and they're the people that have put you up at that pinnacle. So to BioWare, I do say, fucking shame on you. Shame on you for putting all of your eggs in this basket because EA told you they wanted to make money in a looter shooter. Fuck you for removing some of your A-team and putting them on this game instead of letting Mass Effect actually try and be a multi-franchise or a bigger franchise with multiple iterations and multiple trilogies rolled into it. You've pretty much killed, a beloved thing for the chance to grow something new, and a lot of people don't agree with that, myself included. That being said, if I walked into Anthem blind, if you just sat me down on a couch and said, "Hey man, here's a video game, try it out," I'd fucking love it. And that's really where I try and judge my games from. So sometimes that's good, sometimes that's bad. Like, that means that, yeah, I don't really get down on a company for the other things that they do unless it interferes with my games. I've mentioned to Tony a couple times, I think it was Shadow of War, where I was like, dude, like, normally I don't care what people do with DLC. I don't support the practice, but this feels fucking intrusive and it's bothering me. So generally speaking, I don't let my politics and my games affect each other for the most part. Every once in a while they'll cross over, but politics aside, I think the game is fun. I'd really love to hear, actually, I'd love to get into a discussion. This may sound like I'm setting myself up for attack. I'd love to hear somebody explain to me, other than why BioWare and EA are shitheads, why this game is hot trash.
Yeah, I think that's where the problem kind of comes in, because the rest of us, aside from the demo, did not play this game. We're not very interested, but I don't know. Go ahead, Adam. What were you going to say?
I was just going to say, Brett, what was the last game that you purchased that you didn't like?
The last game that I purchased that I didn't like, Red Dead.
And you didn't like it at all?
Not right. I mean, the campaign was too slow for me. I felt it was weighty.
Like, you didn't like it at all?
No.
So at least because I remember everybody talks about Horizon, and you're like, Horizon. Which one do you like less, Horizon or Red Dead?
I like Horizon less, but Red Dead pissed me off more.
Interesting. Continue.
Because Red Dead promised me a multiplayer too, and it also didn't deliver. And that's not fair. I can't say that Red Dead single player didn't deliver. It was slow paced, and it like 30 hours in, and it hadn't picked up, and it just didn't hook me. I think that's one of those. I take the blame on that one.
Well, there you go, Adam. Recent
totally
games
good.
that
Were you trying to say Brett likes all the games he plays? Because he definitely doesn't. You know,
he doesn't.
No, that's not what I said. I just wanted to know, because like with Fallout 76, everyone had all these issues. He swore by it. He said everything was fine. He did that with that other game, was it Absolver, same shit. So I was just wondering.
I didn't swear by Fallout 76. I said I liked Fallout 76.
But you said you had no issues that everybody was reporting. Remember, you said nope, that wasn't happening on mine. So.
Oh yeah, no, I didn't have those issues. They were very real issues that everybody else was having. I was just lucky enough not to have those issues.
Adam, people were having issues with Absolver?
I know that people didn't like it.
No, not people didn't like it. People didn't play it. There's a difference there.
Yeah, I don't remember anyone saying that they didn't like Absolver. I just remember people like what Tony said. I don't remember. I just don't remember.
People didn't play it. It's people who did play it more or less liked it. Some loved it, like Brett, but most people just didn't play it. But go ahead.
I think a more fair thing to say about Brett is that he likes controversial titles. I think that's a fair thing to say, because
I can put it better. I like broken ass games. I don't give a shit.
Like broken ass games. Now that's a hot take,
dude. I'm the guy.
I don't think you're doing it on purpose either. I think you just so happen to like a game that's broken.
Yeah, if I like a game, I will overlook some of its flaws as long as I find it playable. Like, I'm the guy that'll wade waist deep into early access titles just to try out new features that haven't been brought into the mainstream, and I'll suffer through the bugs.
It's interesting, especially when you talk about like getting your money's worth and all kinds of other things. Isn't also having a pretty close to polished sort of game also part of getting your money's worth? If somebody at Sony decided to put out a game like that on the level of like some of their bigger titles, and it's glitchy as hell, that probably would cause a lot of stink.
I generally tend to value gameplay over graphics, and a lot of the early access, they get the fundamentals down. Like, a lot of them don't as well, and there are things that change, but the base game is usually playable in some sort of fashion, and is usually considered, or what I would consider at least, a feature finished game.
But if the new God of War came as glitchy as Fallout 76, then everyone would hate it.
I consider God of War has the same amount of fucking content that an early access does. That game felt like a fucking early access game that was just highly polished. There's a whole other 50% of that game that we should have gotten that we fucking didn't. I thought it was going to be DLC, but it never showed up. Like, why the fuck didn't we unlock half the map in that game?
Oh yeah,
it's called a sequel, Brett. That's what it's for, man. It can't give you everything in one game.
Unless you're going to recycle the assets for the second game.
Well, you don't know that.
That's stupid. No, I do know that. Like, you put the fucking the bridge, right? And you see a map with like 8 fucking realms that you can visit, but you can only visit 3. And I'm like, okay, well, they're going to unlock realms with DLC or something like that. No. Well, if they're going to have that same asset, that same wheel in the second game, that's reusing assets. Like, that's why, like, that's what I usually, and I'm not saying this to talk shit on God of War. I'm saying this, most early access games are like that, where there's a game, but then there's clearly like another 40 to 60% coming that's going to be, different armor sets or different building types or different enemy types or other things. But the stuff that's there is usually pretty feature complete. But a lot of times it is broken or unbalanced. And yeah, you'll run into bugs. But
That's a volcanic take, my friend. That's all I got to say about that. You know,
dude, I got a long fuse for bugs in games. As long as the core gameplay is enjoyable to me. But that doesn't mean I don't recognize them. Like I freely admit, Bethesda games are buggy as shit. Now I've played worse, but yeah, they're a little wonky.
Yeah. By the way, a couple of things in the chat. Mainly from Glorious War. He wants to know if you finished Horizon Zero Dawn.
I did not. I did not actually get to the big twist, so I could be part of the reason that it never grabbed me.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, he said that Fallout 76 is recycled assets the game.
Oh, I know.
So it's not okay if God of War does it, but it's okay if Fallout does?
I would be okay if God of War recycled those assets to open it into a multiplayer arena game. Sure.
No, Jesus, remember how bad multiplayer was in God of War Ascension? Ugh.
Yeah. I mean, if we're halfway decent.
Yeah,
but
we don't need that
again.
Like,
they're gonna. I mean, Fallout 76 was a $60 game, right? And it's all reused assets. That's kind of not cool.
It's not all reused assets. They reused a lot of like the base game and engine and stuff, but they made a lot of new assets for it. Like in terms of art assets. No, a lot of that stuff is brand new. But a lot of the base game, like people were upset they didn't upgrade the engine between them. Like, and I get that, but I think the only thing that saves it from that is like if you would have told me this is a brand new Fallout title, sure, but I thought they were always pretty clear about being, a side project.
I feel like in general the price should have been dropped on Fallout 76. It shouldn't have been a $60 game. It should.
It's a difficult thing. If it weren't going to be a $60, if it were a $30 game, you would have seen way more microtransactions in it.
But I think people wouldn't have been as, harsh on it if it was a lower priced game.
Yeah, if it was a $30 game, it would not only get more microtransactions, but it'll get more people playing it.
But I think it's on sale right now, and people are still trashing it.
It's already too late. It's people don't talk about when price drops happen much.
No, see, here's the thing. Like, here's where I come from, curiously on that one. Like, I had watched, and because Bethesda is one of my favorite developers. I had watched long enough, even when they came out with Skyrim all those years ago. Now, they said, well, why did you decide to put dragons in the game? I said, well, the most common features asked for us for any of our games is multiplayer and dragons. We haven't figured out how to do multiplayer yet, so you get dragons. So I was expecting something multiplayer to come down the tubes, and I guess it's just kind of one of those, okay, so they wanted to make a multiplayer Fallout. Like, you wanted to make a multiplayer Fallout. Like, how are you going to do this? Well, you're going to build a whole bunch of new assets for the game? Probably not. Probably a smarter move would have been to share assets with Fallout 5, but then Fallout 5 would have been the one to say, you would have looked at Fallout 5 and say, this just stole assets from Fallout 76. So, I mean, if you have two games being developed side by side, are you going to build different game engines for both of them? I'm not really sure exactly what people expected or wanted to happen realistically here. It was being developed side by side with Fallout 4, so why would it not use the same engine? Why would it not use a lot of the same assets?
Yeah. All right. Anything else you guys want to say about Anthem?
Being a space wizard fucking rules.
I think that in the distant future, I will get Anthem. Because when Anthem was first shown, like, man, I was one of the only people that I personally knew that was like hyped to play it because Iron Man is one of my favorite Marvel superheroes. So seeing the character fly around like Iron Man, and I enjoy Destiny 1. Everybody hates Destiny 1. I enjoyed it, and I like Warframe 2. So when I saw this, it fancied me in every way when it was first shown. But after hearing all of the stuff that's going on, I think I will definitely, because just like Destiny 2 and Destiny 1, eventually these games get better, they get more refined, patch DLC, and then you hear people a year and a half later talk about, oh, this game is completely different. It's not even the game it was when it first released. It's way better now, but nobody gives a fuck during that time, or majority of people don't give a fuck during that time. So I'm going to wait when that happens, because it most likely will happen. Hopefully it does happen. And if or when it does happen, that's when I will hop in, which will probably be like, what, back in 2021, 2020, late 20, somewhere around there. But yeah.
These games always take a while to grow on themselves. Who wants to
True.
bet me that Division 2 is going to eat a turd sandwich on release?
Oh, you think it's gonna take a dump on the first day?
Yeah.
It could. You know, that's the problem with these games as a service games now. You know.
Yeah, but I'm seeing something. I think I'm starting to see something more big picture here. Whereas I think all these games that get released this way are going to get. They're not going to get record scores. You're not going to see a game released as a live service game break 90 on Metacritic. Not until it.
I'm sorry, Brett. I'm so fucking. I probably shouldn't be saying this, but I don't care. I'm so fucking tired of these games, man. Like, and I'm being real right now with you guys, man. This whole week, I've been like, the main thing on my brain is like, man, I am not happy with gaming right now. It is not fucking fun, and a big chunk of that is because of these fucking games, man. I'm seeing these excuses. Oh, it'll get better. It'll get better. Fuck that. It should be good on day one. I'm not trying to wait. You know, look, Street Fighter V, perfect example. I was hyped for that motherfucking game. Now it's good. Now it's the game. It should have been on day one, but I'm not trying to play it right now. You know, I'm so the future of gaming. I know this may sound melodramatic, is not very bright to me. If this is the shit we have to deal with now, these broken ass games that get better eventually. You know, it's fucking stupid.
It's only online. Man, it's getting unreal. Like, okay, we've expanded the scope of video games. Like, now, like, it used to be like one thing, like, 12 hours through, you know, a series of preset cutscenes and cinematic backdrops. That's pretty easy to design for. Even down to, remember, when you're playing a video game, there's a cone radiating out from in front of your character, and that is the only thing being rendered. When you're talking about these big open world games, you're having to render an entire environment and then players inside that environment and render everything that they're looking at. Like, it gets exponentially more difficult. And then on top of that, no longer do we have 12 hours. We want an intriguing single-player story with the ability to drop in and out of combat with our friends. We want varied enemy types, more varied enemy types than the average 6 to 7 we have in a video game. We want 30 different enemy types from 5 or 6 different factions and 250 hours of gameplay with a fully fleshed out end-game loot cycle that's going to keep the hardcore grinding continuously for 3 months, while at the same time not shutting out the more casual players. There's a huge power discrepancy between the hardcore players and the casual players. So we need to find a way to keep metering out more and more epic gear to the casual players, or hardcore players, so they can be the most badass without making the casual players unable to join in. And we need to keep all of this going at a full enough speed and keep them eating up this content fast enough or slow enough that we can get out more content by the time that they're actually just finishing it without any downtime, so they don't have to jump in and play another game. They never run out of anything to do, and we're constantly feeding content to them. And oh, by the way, they want 80% of it for free. They want free monthly updates. They want free weekly challenges. They want all these other things. So we're going to have a live tech team on it, as well as constantly be creating new content that we're putting out for free. And then 4 times a year, they want us to put out a $30 expansion with more content update that gives another 100+ hours of gameplay plus refreshed end gameplay loop.
Yeah, but most of those content updates are just bug fixes and stuff.
No,
like that.
no.
By the way,
this is what they.
Yeah, no. Let Brett finish. Go ahead, Brett.
Yeah.
I'm not saying this is what we get. I'm saying this is what gamers are essentially asking for when they ask for a fully realized Destiny 2 that's feature complete and bug free on release day. Like, it's I hate to say it because I agree with Tony that it does suck, but I think to a certain extent it's because I'm not jumping on the entitled gamer bandwagon. I'm just saying, think about what the fuck we're asking. We're asking all of this for $60. The same price that I used to pay for a fucking Nintendo game.
Yeah.
Like, we're not even taking into account inflation here.
Yeah. By the way, and Brett, I'm cutting you off because everything you're saying right now, we're actually gonna bring up a little bit later. But it's perfect. Everything you said is perfect. It relates to something that we have later on. So, but I don't want to go. I don't want to go to that topic yet. But everything you said, just keep it in the back of your head because you're gonna bring it back up. But everything you just said, I completely agree with. We demand too much, but that's for a little bit later tonight. Okay. By the way, I think we got enough people in the chat. By the way, Glorious War, I see your comments, but I want to move on, so I'm not gonna read those. Brett, let's just say he doesn't agree with you on your assessment of Anthem, but I'm not trying to expand this shit for another like 20 minutes.
I mean, it's not for everybody. Maybe you like Division.
Yeah, you maybe.
You gotta like that trash game.
Damn, Adam agrees though. All right, guys, I'm gonna now put a code for Far Cry New Dawn for the PS4 into the chat. First come, first serve, man. This is what we do on Throwdown. So enjoy. All right, next topic here. You know me, man. I don't give a fuck about this shit, but you know it's a big deal, so we got to talk about it. Pokemon's. They got a new. This is the real deal. Pokemon Sword and Shield's coming out.
Ooh, the Pokemons. Yeah.
Riku, tell us about Pokemon's, man.
So this is the 8th generation of the Pokemons, and this is the game that the Nintendo guys were waiting for. Not that Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee crap that they got last year, but apparently a couple of them liked it, so that's good. But they were waiting for this
Riku, before you go on, man, I need to ask you a very important question. Very important question. Did anybody faint when this shit was announced?
Not that I was aware of, but I wouldn't be surprised if
it was Triforce.
It was Triforce.
Triforce probably did faint when he saw the new starters and whatnot.
Exactly. Anyway, go on, man.
Yeah, so this is the 8th generation on the Nintendo Switch. Supposed to be their next big main Pokemon game. And honestly, as far as what I heard from the the response, it's actually quite they're all of them aren't praising it 100%. I'm actually seeing a decent amount of them are actually unsatisfied by what Game Freak has presented to them. And to a degree, I can understand their complaints. A few of them, I tweeted this also, retweeted somebody who was talking about it. This person showed some footage of the announcement trailer that they showed, and in his little video and in the video of the announcement trailer, it shows that random encounters are returning to Pokemon. And as far as Pokemon Let's Go, apparently they moved past random encounters. When you're running around with your little Pokemon trainer, I think you can have a Pokemon follow you, and you can also see the Pokemon on the the screen. So if you want to fight them, you can. If you want to avoid them, you can do that also. But apparently for this Gen 8, they went back to random encounters. And some people like that and some people don't. I'm on the side of part of me would have liked no random encounters, just see all the Pokemon. But then I also have to take into account the amount and variety of Pokemon that they have up to this point. Because you know how when a new Pokemon game comes out, it's most of the time, it's not all new Pokemon, it's returning Pokemon also. I think Black and White was like the only time they did that. I'm not entirely sure. But they have a ridiculous amount of... And I can understand if their reason for going back to random encounters is because they do not want to create a little tiny walking version of... Well, how many Pokemon do we have right now? We have to be over 1,000. I think the last gen we were at 800.
It's over 150.
Yeah, you remember when it was 150? We're almost at 1,000 now. So I wouldn't be surprised if they did not want to go through all of that.
Well, Rico, what if they just didn't want you walking around a zone looking for sprites of Pokemon? Like, I mean, if you think about how that would work into the gameplay, it might actually kind of suck if you're trying to competitively hunt rare Pokemon. Like, part of the gameplay loop is getting into fights, grinding up. And
I guess, but I remember sometimes when I, back in the heyday when I did play Pokemon, I do remember sometimes when I was looking for a specific Pokemon, and you find a fucking Rattata or a goddamn Zubat, So, I guess searching for that specific Pokemon, you know what you're going to get into when you see it.
Yeah,
Pro behind it also.
I wonder if they're gonna put the shinies back in there. I wonder if they're gonna.
I think they will. As like a main title, they most likely will put the shining back in there.
Yeah, so there's gonna be a lot of collecting, and I don't know if this game connects to Pokemon Bank because every mainline game has a way for you to port like the last titles.
When did they start that?
That's been going on a while. Like I think back in Game Boy Advance you could transfer, and the DS
Pokemon
games could do
Bank.
it. No. Pokemon Bank was recent. That was for Sun and Moon.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I was asking. When did this Pokemon Bank
Yeah.
thing start? Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
so it's an
anyway.
online thing. You have to pay for it, I believe, right?
Yeah. So what? It's like a cloud. And you can put your Pokemon in there and transfer it to the next game.
Yeah, it's a like online cloud storage. I think the game connects to it. Puts
And
your
you
stuff in
can
it.
and you can put what, like, is it just Pokemon that you can put in there, or items also, and Pokeballs?
I'm not sure about items. I know you store Pokemon in there.
Interesting. I did not know about that. That's an interesting feature, and I am also interested to know if that will return for this one. They better. I mean, it sounds like they were making money, but
Yeah.
this Gen 8, like I said, a lot of people are, iffy about this one. They seem excited, but they're also iffy. And then they're all jumping on which starter they want and all this good stuff. But I mean, it's the 8th generation of Pokemon. I don't know how I feel about Game Freak. I mean, they're just trying to put out a Pokemon game, a new one. So,
do you think this will attract non-franchise? Well, like I'm thinking about going back and playing this Pokemon game, and I haven't played a Pokemon game in fucking.
I've actually talked to a few people that dropped out of Pokemon, and they said that they won't return until it's a true next gen Pokemon. It has like the graphic fidelity of like a Final Fantasy X or some shit, or something like that, As some of them saw that, and a few of them actually did say, "This is the Pokemon I was waiting for," and then some of them are like, "No, this still isn't it." So it's divided between those people also. But
they didn't like that look cartoony.
Yeah, Manny, do you believe that Pokemon is a system seller? Well, here's the thing. Obviously, it was a system seller for the handheld side of things, but now the question is, do you think it's a console seller?
I mean, I definitely think it still has the cloud, but I don't know if it being about being a system seller. See, I think people who are already have the consoles already will already buy them, but I don't know how many people are just going to be like, oh shit, this is going to be the reason why I buy it.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that either, because I know people used to do that for the handhelds. It was obviously a handheld seller. People go out and buy the next handheld. That's what I did. I was one of those people where when I first got my Nintendo DS Lite, the only game I got for it was Pokemon Diamond. Anything else, and then I sold it for White DualShock 3.
All right,
it'll be a system seller.
This shit, I'm gonna say it now, and I'm probably gonna eat crow. This shit's gonna sell 20 million copies. I guarantee.
Wait, how are you gonna eat crow? You're absolutely right.
Nice.
I made crow, but I think it's gonna sell 12 million copies.
I wouldn't be surprised. 20 or 12?
20. I think that this is two Pokemon games.
I agree.
True. That's true. If you're taking both of their sales combined and getting that number, then I can definitely see it.
And Riku, you said you're wondering if it's a system seller. Most of the big Nintendo first-party games are going to be system sellers.
Yes. This game is gonna. This is gonna be the game that's gonna help the Switch out overpass the Xbox. I guarantee you that.
Here's the thing. How well did that redo Pokemon game?
It sold 10 million in a month. And we're gonna talk about this later. Horizon Zero Dawn took 2 years to reach 10 million. This fucking game, the Boo Boo Pokemon game, sold 10 million in a month. So imagine what a real Pokemon game's gonna do.
Yeah, because there were a few people that didn't get Pokemon Let's Go because of what it was, and they were waiting for this one. So all of the Let's Go people that made that 10 million are gonna get this one also, including the ones that didn't. So yeah,
it's gonna be crazy. By the way, Riku, just to jump right point, what I found interesting was that there was a little bit of division within the Pokemon community. Like basically half of them, or I don't know. Okay, I'm not gonna throw numbers, but some of them were happy, just because of the fact that they have a Switch Pokemon game. But some other people were upset that, and these are Pokemon fans, they were upset that this isn't the Breath of the Wild style reinvention. Like they wanted an expansive open world MMO almost type of game, And then to be honest, and I'm saying this purely as not a Pokemon fan, I think that's a valid thing to say. It's like why shouldn't you demand that? Yeah.
Maybe Gen 9 people, you're gonna have to wait another gen.
But I mean, the thing is that it's like, I also think that Game Freaks is also probably going to stick with what they know.
Oh yeah, of course.
Do they even know how to make a massive open world game?
By the way, just to add on to what Manny said, not only we don't know if they could, but let's just be honest. Even though one of those type of Pokemon games would be nice, they don't need to either. They know
really
this
don't.
shit's gonna sell. You know.
I disagree. I mean, let's be fucking honest here. With ourselves, with everybody else. If Game Freak somehow managed to pull together a Pokemon-style MMO, free reign, even if it were a subscription-based thing, that thing would be the next World of Warcraft. That shit would be the next fucking Fortnite. They would dominate.
The other thing about Pokemon games is that, let's be honest, they don't take a lot to develop. I mean, how long ago did they announce that game? 2 years ago?
See, the thing, they could dump an immense amount into this one.
I'm just saying, like, this game probably wouldn't have come out as quickly as it did if they were developing a massive open world game.
No, that's true. I mean, here's the magic formula though. Develop giant open world, allow people to plug into the system, have them pay a subscription service, and then randomly do the old World of Warcraft thing where you unleash new zones. Like Pokemon trainers have found a new and exotic zone with new and exotic region with new and exotic Pokemon. And you would just every couple of months they'd add a few new Pokemon. They could trickle that shit for 10 years. They could dominate the industry for a decade.
And you think from a revenue standpoint that would make more than what they're doing right now?
I think so. Because you
don't think that any majority of, let's say, I know there's going to be the diehards that stay there and they play that for years on end, but just like Pokemon, I think it's just called Pokemon Go, the amount of people that played it now versus the amount of people still playing it right now is, they definitely fell off, even though
big paid content updates. World of Warcraft still does it. And they pay $60 every year.
Yeah, I don't know if the reoccurring revenue, way down the line of that Pokemon game that you're saying would be as significant as what they are.
Let me ask you this: how often do they release a Pokemon game now?
Every, like Tony said, every 2 years, 2.5.
Okay, so all they would have to do is keep an online service open and release a full expansion at least every 2.5 years to be making the same amount of money. They could release a new expansion every year, so they could be making a $60 price tag every year, and they could also add a subscription service to that.
Here's the other thing, though. This is just a question to you. Do you feel that the amount of people that would sit there and play, a game that, has a reoccurring, basically an MMO type game that has them latched into the game for years on end, do you think that, what point in time are we when it comes to that type of person? Are we at an all-time high? Are we at an all-time low? Where are we? Because if we're at an
all-time high, because
you think so?
Because consoles are just breaching that market. For the longest time, that was a PC-only market, and it hasn't really hitched real well. Like there's been some moderate success with like Elder Scrolls Online, but the first games to really hit that whole, like, that's why Fortnite, one of the reasons it's so popular. It's the first time consoles have really plugged into this huge audience and brought a huge audience of people together, where games become mimetic, where they become a social activity that's part of an ingrained and shared culture. Like that's how WoW was back in the day, man.
You could say that, but you definitely have to take into consideration some of the other main reasons why Fortnite is still heavy is because it's still the pioneering battle royale game as far as popularity.
Yeah, but look how many people still play fucking Minecraft.
That's true.
Yo,
like,
by the way,
I don't think it would die.
I just want to interject. Yo, Tony, that tweet.
Yo, yeah, isn't
Tony,
that perfect?
that tweet, yo?
Yeah, that tweet. That excuse me. I'm gonna bring up that tweet during the show. Anyway, go ahead, Brett.
Yeah, you also have to take into consideration Fortnite is a competitive game. You know how people, it's Fortnite has so many things that work in its favor to keep it fresh and alive.
That's beauty. Pokemon's competitive at its heart. You open up arena battles.
Yeah, but I don't know if there's that many competitive. I don't know if there is as much competitive Pokemon gamers out there as there is competitive third-person
Oh,
battle
dude.
royale gamers out there.
I've known so many Pokemon Go players that will drive 15 minutes out of their way to challenge a fucking gym. I don't even understand it. There's not even a game involved. You just go there. Like, you actually put a game there, and I think you
I understand that. I'm not saying that they don't exist. I'm saying that I don't think that they're as much as these Fortnite people.
Well, here's the other thing. Like, you could do all kinds of revenue. Like, maybe you make it, if you want to take away the Fortnite platform, and I'm just saying it could be as big as scale. If you want to take on the Fortnite platform, then you make it a free game. You maybe have to buy the game with no subscription. But you know how many people would buy a fucking flower for their Bulbasaur's head or a hat for their Charizard? Like, there is an
microtransactions is another reason.
Dude, when you have 200 characters to customize, the options to sell you customizations are way bigger than when you're just customizing your main character. And people love their Pokemon.
Yeah, I know. I don't know. I could see it being up there, but as far as I recall, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, didn't Fortnite recently, like a couple months ago, become the biggest revenue collecting thing in all of entertainment or something like that?
But see, that's the thing. There will always be a new king, and the new king will always be a little bit more powerful than the last king. The thing is, what I'm talking about is there's the pinnacle, the game that everybody's bought into, and at that point, it's difficult to unthrone that game until a large majority of the player base moves over. It's about capturing the culture. It at a certain point, it doesn't even have to do with the game. And Pokemon has already captured that culture. And I'm not even saying it's going to be bigger than Fortnite. But the big thing that I'm arguing, or the original question was, is there more of a revenue stream to make it a big open world multiplayer game? I think so, because especially if you added content, added patches, added expansions, you could absolutely get more than $30 a year out of your average player.
I think if Game Freak did decide to do what you said, from a business standpoint, honestly, I think firstly they need to get more people. Secondly, if they did do that, they need to still continue with the mainline stuff. So if they did come up with that, with all of the Pokemon from Gen 8 and down in this new game, there still needs to be a Gen 9
honestly,
traditional Pokemon game.
If they make that, they need to outsource it.
And
they need to be consultants on the game and have, like, I don't know, fucking Monster Hunter team do it.
That's what I was saying. As far as, you don't necessarily need to have one or the other. You can do both. And that was what I tweeted when I was referring to the people who were mad about the fact that this new Gen 8 Pokemon is going back to random encounters. Some didn't like that, but some people did. And I don't know if anyone here played a game called Bravely Default on the Nintendo 3DS.
Oh yes, I played that shit, boy.
Yeah, I played it.
That game, you know how that game has a feature. I thought it was weird at first, but it's kind of cool now. It has a quality of life feature that allows you to turn off the random encounters when you want to in the menus,
or increase them if you want.
Yeah, or increase them.
It's fucking beautiful. What I did with that game was, like, when I was trying to go through the story, I would turn off the random counters, but when I wanted to grind, I would increase them. It was fucking awesome. I wish more games would do that.
Yeah, and I wish more games would do it, but I would wish it would be more of an item that you would use and it would do it instead of being in the menus. But the point is that you can do that, and there's an option whether you want to have random encounters or not have random encounters. And I thought, as far as this Gen 8 thing, I thought that would probably have been the best route for them to go if they could do, the whole not random encounters thing, is to have both. So people aren't sitting here mad about the fact that their preference wasn't chosen.
How about a middle ground? How about you can tell where general enemies are, but you don't know what type they are? I mean, fuck, if there's an animal scurrying through the bushes, you don't know what it is until you're fighting it.
What? So, like, kind of like what I don't know if you played Persona before, but like all of their enemies, they're running around, but they have that generic shadowy look until you fight them and you see what they are, like that.
Yeah.
Persona.
I don't know if the random encounter people would like that. That's just hiding what you're actually getting into. I don't know if they would be down for that, but that is an idea also.
I kind of disagree with it, and this is just me talking personally as a gamer. Like, I feel like you shouldn't be able to see exactly what fucking Pokemon it is. Like, that just feels too omniscient almost. Like you shouldn't know what's in the trees or what's in the bushes. Like half the time, like you're walking.
So you
down
like the
street.
mystery, is what you're saying?
Well, it just doesn't reflect real life. Animals in nature, like they don't necessarily announce themselves. You just know that there's something in the bushes over there.
Yeah.
And maybe you should kind of hang to the left.
If we're gonna talk about real,
Hold on, Brian. Brian, go ahead.
Yeah, can I just jump in? In Pokemon, they have like an 8-foot-long rock snake. I don't think that there's anywhere that.
Yeah, I think the picture. I think the little video that the dude was showing. It had Onyx on the fucking screen when he was running by it, and that shit was like 6 times bigger than him.
I totally agree, like what Brett's saying. Like, yeah, there are some that you can't see, like pigeons and rats and stuff like that. But
like a fucking Rattata, yeah.
Like some of the Pokemon, like you just cannot ignore them because they're just that stupidly big. So, and I was one of the people that was like, oh, there's no
like
Pokemon
a Snorlax in the
world.
middle of the road.
Because I really like the idea of Pokemon in the open world. Because again, it made the world feel actually full of Pokemon. I mean.
It did.
The whole freaking point. It is the world of Pokemon. You expect them to see
right here in this chat, we have a divide between two people, Tony.
Oh, I'm on Brian's side. I want the overworld, man.
By the way, I feel where Brett's coming from, but it's not a realistic fucking game. You got fucking all these little cute monsters running around and shit.
No, I do.
Yo, man, what makes it cute?
Get that. But like at a certain point, like I feel like all of gaming is playing a bit of a this is a pet peeve of mine. I feel like gaming is playing a bit of a game of telephone with itself, at the point where like, okay, at a certain point, this was supposed to represent this thing, but then it got turned into this mechanic, and then that got turned into this mechanic, and now I got turned into this mechanic, and now we all just feel like Wolverine because, like, it was supposed to imitate life at some point, and we just we accepted the limitations of the hardware at the time, and then grew new types of gaming out of that, and now that hardware limitation isn't there, like we still do the old thing.
Yeah, hold on, Brett. We had this discussion before. I don't think Super Mario Brothers was trying to emulate real life, jumping on mushrooms and shit.
Not every game is.
Here's another way they could do it, Brett. Basically what you said, where it's a shadowy figure that you don't necessarily know, but when you do see it, let's say it's a Pikachu, right? It's not a Pikachu. We all play Pokemon, other than Tony, I guess, that knows that when you do see that Pikachu for the first time and you check your Pokedex, it updates. You know, so maybe when you go back to the overworld and anytime you do see a Pikachu, it actually shows up as a Pikachu now. All the other ones are still a shadowy figure.
My favorite option would be if you created, like, Monster Hunter World is pretty much the pinnacle, in my opinion, of the what you should frame it as. And if you did a fully realized world like that with like lush foliage, you wouldn't need to have obscured small characters, because a fucking Pikachu would hide in the bushes because you couldn't see it through the bushes. But then an Onyx, like, plowing through, you'd just be like, oh shit, it's knocking over trees and shit. Like, you know, like that's what I'd like to see. So yeah, it's one of those, like, if you're going through, and there are times, like, even in Monster Hunter, when you're like, okay, I know there's a giant 12-foot monster around here somewhere, but I'm in the middle of the goddamn woods and I can't fucking see it. Oh, there it is. Like,
yeah.
So Brett, you want Pokemon Snap, the RPG?
No, I want Pokemon Hunter.
Poke Hunter.
You know what's crazy though?
Why not? Why not? Think about it.
I'm with you, bro.
Every time you jump out into Monster Hunter, you jump out into a different zone. Like, why couldn't those just be different Pokemon regions?
Yeah,
you could probably, you know how in Dragon Quest 11, Tony, you can like fly on those little dragons.
Yo, no
spoilers.
spoilers.
Do that inside their team.
Man, I come over to slap you, man. You didn't play that shit yet. Anyway, go ahead, Rico. Yeah. Like, you could fly on monsters and stuff. That's all. Yeah, that's dope.
Be flying on like a Pidgeot or something. Or Charizard.
Yeah. By the way, this is the most Pokemon we've talked in a long time. I'm like, Riku, because I didn't realize you were a Pokemon head like that.
Dude, back in the day, man. here's how heavy I was into Pokemon back in the day. It was a point in my life where I think up to Pokemon Ruby, when that one was out, I could close my eyes, and just by hearing the cry sound effect of the Pokemon, I would know what it was.
Damn.
So
that's how
Riku,
crazy
man,
I was in there.
You fooled me, man, because I was under the impression that you became a JRPG fan just a couple of years ago after meeting me. Turns out you've been a JRPG fan your whole life.
Yeah, it was just Pokemon though. Yeah.
Yo, man, you've been playing Baby's first RPG.
Yeah,
Baby's first RPG for like half of my life. Yeah, I know, right?
See, Rico, this is the way I equate it. Like, you saying that is like me, like when I was my teenager going, yo, man, this anime shit is cool. And Manny's like, yo, you know Voltron and Transformers? That's anime too, son. Like, oh shit. I didn't know.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. When I started to like expand out and play other turn-based RPG games, I was like, I couldn't look at Pokemon the same way. That's probably why I have not returned back to it. But I do want to. But it's just like every time I feel like I want to, I'm like, man, I could be playing.
So Riku, does
a real
that mean
JRPG right now, like Chrono Cross.
Yeah, does that mean you're gonna get a Switch, the successor to the Vita?
I know someone said, yeah, this is it, Riku, Pokemon Gen 8. It's time to get back into Pokemon, get that Nintendo Switch, time to do it. I was like,
and you can play Final Fantasy on there just like it's a PlayStation.
Yo, when Riku gets a Switch, it's gonna be like me when it's gonna be like when I got a PS2 after Dreamcast died. It's like, fuck, I don't want this shit, but I got no choice.
I think the thing about those Final Fantasy games is that firstly, Final Fantasy, let's say, because Final Fantasy X came out for the Switch, right?
Final Fantasy X.
I still have that on my Vita. It's 4 already, and I'm still trying to get them trophies, son. So I don't think Final Fantasy would be something that would pull me over to Nintendo Switch.
Yo, but that Pokemon's though, son.
Are you gonna get it, Tony?
Oh fuck no, Pokemon. I don't care about Pokemon. Fuck out of here, man. Fuck out of here. Fuck out of here. I never played that shit.
I'm getting the game, but I'm with Brett. I'm a little bit disappointed with the way it looks.
Yeah, to a degree, me too. Well, I wanted what Brett said. That's kind of what I was waiting for, also.
I'm not surprised at all because Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee. It's exactly the same engine they're using for this one, only it's more polished.
It's a stepping stone upwards, but man, was it a small stepping stone upwards? So everyone thought they were gonna do a giant leap. They did one step up the stair.
Yeah. When I look at it, it looks like what's it called? Pokemon Sun and Moon, but with like high res textures.
Yeah.
That's how it looks to me.
That's pretty much what it is.
That's pretty much what I expected. Like they stick to a formula, Game Freaks, you know. So
I think eventually we'll get to that. What Brett was talking about. It's just not this one, people.
I don't know if it's going to be Game Freaks that would be actually making something like that. I think it might be somebody else.
That's why Brett said give it to the Monster Hunter team. You know.
See, Pokemon Hunter, I would play this shit. Nah, I'm good.
See, I figured as much.
Brett, were you wanting me to play it?
You know, I was like, there's a very small chance that Tony might play it because it's an RPG, and forget about the fact that there's a PvP aspect until it's too late for me, until I've challenged him.
Yeah, but
he never played the other ones. In fact, we've been on this show and there's been like 10 Pokemon games that have come out.
Honestly,
he's never played them.
I've never played Pokemon.
And Tony's had a 3DS.
Yeah, but I think you'll be able to say honestly and genuinely, this will probably be objectively, and I know a lot of people are going to dislike the best Pokemon game in a very long time.
Oh.
I probably would say
no. I'm not, Brett. I'm not interested at all. Like Pokemon, I honestly do not give a fuck. Here's the thing, and this may be me generalizing, but I don't have that nostalgia that a lot of the Pokemon fans had. When Pokemon came out, I was an old man already. I didn't give a fuck.
I was 16 when it came out.
Oh wow, big 16. Come on, Brett. I was older than that. I was like 20.
No. Like it wasn't the kid or the cartoony aspect that intrigued me. The thing that's all I've always loved about Pokemon is literally the mechanics. It is one of the very few RPGs where you actually have to go out and recruit your characters. You can actively customize them, grind them, equip them with special abilities, and then combat other players' characters who they've also trained and customized. I can't do that shit in Final Fantasy. I can't go out, find a dude, whoop his ass in the field, come back, give him special armor, train him Omni Slash, and then send him into your game to challenge you. Like, I can't do that. And that's honestly something worth more to me than all the platinums in the world.
He wants to destroy you, Tony.
Yeah.
No, I don't want to destroy. I want to fight, and I want to persevere and win. Like, that's...
One thing I wanted to add, Tony, when the first Pokemon game came out, you weren't in your 20s.
No, I
You were
wasn't. But
probably-
but you're right. When I found out Pokemon existed, let me just give a nice breakdown. When I first found out about Pokemon, I was like 18 when the anime came out. I didn't know Pokemon was a game until I was 27. I was like, they got games of this shit. I was like, yeah, and
Yeah, because
That
it
anime
was
ruined the
literally
game
on the.
for
It
me.
was literally on.
yeah,
the
it was
Game
on. Yeah, I was on the game, but I didn't find out until I was like 27. Then my boy Evil Chris like, yeah, it's baby's first Pokemon. It's baby's first JRPG. Don't even worry about it. I'm like, okay. I had already been playing JRPGs for a good many years after that point. I'm like, I don't need to play that shit. You know.
Here's what I don't get. Like, and I get why people call it baby's first JRPG. And I get back in the day compared to like some of the hardcore Persona type RPGs. Dude, it's like Dragon's Quest level deep, maybe deeper. Like, you actually have to customize and adjust your characters. You actually have to worry about elements focusing with other elements. You can't just run in, perfect your character with, 1, 2, 3, 4 combo, and then rinse and repeat on every enemy until you're level 99. It just doesn't work. That way.
Baby's first RPG really has to do with a lot of the storyline. The storylines of all those Pokemon games are exactly
they're
the
awful.
same.
Yeah. By the
They're
way,
all- they're not. They're meant for children. So
yeah.
it's
By the way,
like, okay.
I know that sounds bad, baby's first JRPG, but I'm actually not. Despite how it sounds, I'm not saying that as a pejorative. I'm just saying I don't really need to go back to a game like that when I could play like more full body JRPGs. You know what I'm saying?
Like that legendary still coming out this March 26th, baby.
Yeah.
Let's go.
But again,
Story-wise, yes. Mechanic-wise, not necessarily.
yeah, no, I understand that, but I'm not trying to grind it out little monsters anyway. You know.
But it's also just like anything where if you decide to push it to put in the time, it becomes a very deep thing.
Oh no, I
Or you
understand
can
that.
just-
I'm not
or you can
begrudging. I'm not
or you
begrudging
can-
anybody,
I-
playing
I'm
Pokemon.
just saying, I'm just saying in general.
Yeah.
Or you can put the time in to make it does have those systems where you can put the time that can become very complicated, but at its core, it's really just it's just supposed to be a lighter RPG in general.
And that's the reason why it's so successful. That's one of the reasons it's so successful. Anybody can jump in and have fun.
World.
Monster Hunter is complicated as fuck.
No,
That
it's
is
not more complicated
yes,
than
it
Pokemon.
is.
It's not more complicated than Pokemon. It is not.
Dude,
Yeah,
that is a very dense it was not a JRPG, it's a Monster Hunter game, but
Yeah,
like
well,
it took
it's
me 40 hours to finally kind of figure it out. That's a very dense game.
Dude,
You
I'm
can
not
beat a Pokemon game with your starter Pokemon. It's
Yeah.
not that hard to do.
No, we're not saying you can't beat Pokemon unless how deep the comparison of how deep it is versus how easy it is to beat. I do know some people that are super deep into Pokemon and some of the hidden intricacies that they sit down and dive into and put.
I'm not saying that this game the game does not include these sorts of things. So the people who decide to go deeper, that's a good game. But at the same time, it is an RPG.
I'm just talking about in comparison to how deep Monster Hunter is. That's all I'm referring to. And as far as that, I don't know if you guys know about the breeding behind Pokemon and what these people do in order to breed and crossbreed in order to make the perfect Pokemon coming out at level 1 so that they can specifically stat it in a perfect way all the way to level 99 to make the most powerful version of that Pokemon that they possibly can. It gets extremely deep. And they'll have like 60 versions of that Pokemon's egg inside their PC, and they spend over, like I said, I looked at my friend's playtime when he was doing this, and it said 999 hours of playtime. And I was like, "What the fuck, dude?"
Jesus Christ!
I was like, "This," and he's like, "Yeah, man, you just don't know." I was like, "Yeah, I don't. I know cries, and that's it." That's when I left.
But again, that's the mark of a good game, where not only can it's good for people that can for younger people that can't don't have more complicated things, or people who decide to go a little bit deeper.
Yeah, I understand that. I was just talking about as far as how deep it was in comparison to Monster. I agree with Brett. It's actually kind of deeper than Monster Hunter, but
yeah,
I would play Monster Hunter over.
I was just arguing when Tony said he wouldn't play Pokemon because it's too simple, but he likes Monster Hunter. I'm like, dude, I think you cannot like Pokemon, but don't think it's because the game is too simple for you, because there is mechanics.
Yeah, it's the thing that Pokemon's outer layer is extremely to learn and beat, but you can't say that about Monster Hunter, to the same degree.
Yeah,
No,
like,
dude,
like,
I can roll through
yeah.
that whole game with my just upgrading my
Yeah.
basic weapon to the end.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
I don't have to
Yeah.
go into how
Yeah,
elements interact with each
yeah,
other.
learning curve and all of that stuff. Monster has all of that. But
yeah,
once you get, yeah,
like it sounds to me like Pokemon is what is it, simple to learn, difficult to master. Monster Hunter is just everything difficult to master, Mr. difficult to learn. It's like, what the fuck is going on here? But because they don't really spell things out as clearly as they should. Even though the older Monster Hunter games were even worse with that.
yeah,
they
that
didn't
one that came
explain
out on the
nothing.
Switch apparently.
Oh
they
my
went back to old
fucking
school.
god! Yeah, that was horrible, terrible.
Yeah,
That was just a
Monster Hunter World is essentially
It's a new game.
a shined up version of those games. Where
Yeah, it's
like,
it's more
simplified a lot
user
of
friendly.
features.
Yeah, it's more user friendly.
Anyway, man, I want to move on here because we still got a lot of stuff. Okay, we got to talk about this THQ 8chan drama, man. This shit was crazy. So basically, out of nowhere, THQ, they went on Twitter and like, hey guys, we're going to do an AMA on 8chan. And everybody lost their fucking minds. Because, of what 8chan represents and all that. To be fair, I didn't study this as much as I should have because, like, the whole thing just seemed really creepy to me and stuff. So, whoever does know more than me, just jump in and fill us in on what's happening. Chris, I'm going to assume you know more about this than I do.
Oh, me?
Yeah.
8chan?
Yeah, no, not 8chan, like the whole thing with THQ and all that.
Well, I just think it's the perception of them doing an AMA on 8chan. It's like, why would you do it there?
I think they were trying to be edgy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like,
it was an edgelord stuff. And
Do you know what 8chan is, Tony?
If it's anything like 4chan, yeah.
No, okay. Let me explain. 8chan is what happened when 4chan actually decided to put the most vague of rules in place. And some people said, this is stifling our freedom of speech. We're going to make our own platform. And those people went and made 8chan. So the people on 8chan are the 4chan rejects, who themselves are the Reddit rejects.
Oh my God! By the way, these are some of the accusations lobbied at them. Apparently, 8chan is banned from Google search because they have like child pornography and all this other stuff.
Anything goes. That's the whole thing. Anything goes. There's
Like
no
again,
restrictions.
I was on 4chan for like all of 5 minutes, and I saw like faces of death types. I'm like, I'm gone. Fuck this.
Imagine the people that say 4chan, they just have too much censorship. That is literally the entirety of what 8chan is.
Oh
so
my God!
8chan's one rule is literally no censorship. So yeah, there's literally everything you can see on there and stuff that I don't want to know exists. I don't want to think the world is any darker than it is. So I stay the fuck away from that place. But and I'm sure that there's some basic funny stuff too. But for the most part, like you'll probably find a lot of pedophile, faces of death, snuff kind of weird shit on there. So the fact that they went there, it's such an alternative platform that is so sharply skewed towards a very specific group of niche, controversy-ridden individuals. Like it's basically the same reason if you're like, hey, we decided to do an AMA on 4chan instead of Reddit, you might go, that's a bad move. 4chan can be a little crazy sometimes and doesn't set forth the most professional image. And they go, oh, I'm sorry, I meant 8chan. And you're like, oh, that's even worse.
Jeez. Okay, so again, because I don't know too much about this, so was the outrage I saw on Twitter justified then? It sounds like it was.
Yes
Well,
and no.
they did. They had their little press conference, whatever they want to do, and people were posting all kinds of hateful speeches and nasty pictures and shit like that, and so they just had to stop.
Yeah.
I didn't know. We
it?
didn't know.
Oh shit.
Yeah, and they were like, we didn't know it was going to be like that. We didn't. Of course, then why'd you pick it? I mean, come on, now, you did know.
It's an odd one. I feel like it's also maybe them not being educated as to what they were going to use it for. You know what I mean? They're like, hey, one is as good as another, and then they just went on it.
Dude, one of their programmers is on 8chan, and they're like, you know what? We should do an AMA on Reddit. This had the internal conversation from what we should do an AMA on Reddit. Don't you think Reddit's a little mainstream? It's kind of a reaching fellow kids kind of thing, and that seems to be reacting poorly when it seems like you're trying too hard on Reddit. Why don't we go a little bit more grassroots? There's this place called 8chan, and someone was like, I don't know, sure, is that like 4chan? They're like, yeah, kinda. Like, okay, sure.
Yeah.
Go ahead, man.
I really think that was it. Like from the explanation I was reading from interview with one of their marketing guys or whatever, where he tried to backpedal on the 8chan stuff, then full on apologize for it. I mean, they were getting hammered on all sides. You know, it's like, oh, THQ supports white supremacy, or THQ supports child pornography and all this stuff. So going on there, and they basically what Brett said is what happened. Like apparently somebody convinced them that, oh yeah, this would be a great idea. So they're okay,
My
and
God.
they announced it, and then it totally backfired. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, guy. Mighty Nerd says, thanks for the heads up. I will not be going there. Yeah, do yourself a favor. Do not go to 8chan. If it's worse than 4chan, do not go, man. Like I said, I was there. I saw a fucking murder scene. I'm like, I was not prepared for this. You know,
It's basically
You
what
have
we're
gone
doing
to-
twice.
like this is not like seeing dead people in a movie.
Tony,
You know?
it's like when the internet first started picking up.
Yes.
You could just type in anything and that's what popped up. You said
Oh,
nudity,
yes.
it came up, whatever. That's what it is.
Oh,
it's everything
fuck,
goes.
Man, yeah, I still have nightmares about some of the shit I saw when the internet first started. Fuck, you know. So yeah,
Introduction to the dark web.
yeah, yeah. THQ,
Exactly.
Yeah, THQ, you done fucked up. Jesus, you know that's bad. No, okay, no wonder everybody was mad at them. You know.
Well, okay. At the same time, though, like I feel like it's a little bit. Yes, it was a weird, shitty thing for them to do, but it was also a bad business practice. Like, I don't agree with this whole fucking morality police thing.
Yeah,
Like,
that's a whole other story, obviously. But
Well, no, that's this
Yeah.
story. That's literally what this is.
but the thing
that-
is, like, if you're going to 8chan, I could understand. You know what I'm saying?
I can understand it being a bad move. I don't understand the connection. Like people are like, oh, they support pedophiles. Like, I very much doubt THQ is sitting around a boardroom and be like, how do we feel about pedophiles? I'm good with them.
Yeah,
Yeah, but you're directing him to a site.
Yeah,
that has
Yeah,
a
that's
that
the
has
problem.
it.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Yeah.
Brett, I see what
Which
you're
I,
saying.
I
He's
feel
like,
like the reaction should be more like, THQ, this is wrong, and here are all the reasons why, and give them an opportunity to back. But like,
It's
that's-
Brett. Think about it like this. Let's say you're a teacher and you want to point one of your students to a video and you tell them, like you know, Pornhub has videos other than porn. What if a teacher points them to a video that has nothing to do with porn, but it's on Pornhub? It's still a bad thing.
Yeah, especially if there's other ways to obtain that, and that was the whole thing.
That's-
There was
that's-
other options. They did not have
Okay.
to go this
Yeah,
way.
Can I just interject,
And
please?
can't you do an
Because-
AMA on Twitter?
yeah, that's right.
Yeah, there was
Oh,
plenty of
Carlos,
ways.
hold on.
Go ahead, Brian.
Hold on, Carlos. Let me just interject because I really hate that argument because I think it's full of shit.
I hate you too, Brian.
Because
Oh,
no, because if you want to use that as a baseline argument, then they can't really do it on Reddit because Reddit had a history of CP. They can't do it on Tumblr because Tumblr got removed from the App Store having CP. They can't do it on Twitter because Twitter is rampant with people that call themselves maps, aka minor attracted people.
Oh my god, I
So,
want to know about any of
then-
this shit.
yeah, that's
So
true.
wow.
then
Right.
you can use the same argument to say, oh, they did it on Twitter. Oh, Twitter is full of maps. Oh, they did it on YouTube. Oh, YouTube is going through the adpocalypse 2.0 because of all the CP stuff going around.
Yeah, but
Like,
there
can
are
use the
some
same
sites that
argument
are
for
more
all these.
vigilated than others.
But then the problem is that you can still use the same argument. It's like, oh, this website did this and that made it bad, and the kids can still find that on that site.
Yeah, you can use the same argument if you're a complete absolutist,
Uh,
but no one in this world is other than you.
I'm just saying that
Excuse me?
you just can't use that as an argument to say, oh, this website had this bad thing and hence
No,
you
but
can't direct them to that point. It's like, look,
but
all
8chan
websites
is
have had that.
but 8chan is
Yeah,
known for
8chan
being
was.
littered with
Yeah,
that.
no. By the way, Brian, I
Yeah,
totally
but then
understand where
at
you're
the
coming
same
from, but that's
time,
not what
so-
Twitter's known for.
so with-
you know.
Okay, it's not known for, but it's still there. It's still there, and it's still a problem that is not
Yeah,
being addressed.
But Twitter, you have to look for that shit to find it. Like Tony said, he went to 4chan and didn't even ask for what he
I
saw.
wasn't looking for it. It just showed up. Like, okay, that's what's going on in the streets right now. You know, like it was literally there. You know.
I'm on Twitter every day. I have not seen
Never seen
anything.
that shit. Yeah, never.
never seen it.
Yeah. And literally, without me even looking for it, I found, well, not CPA. I just saw a murder fucking scene on 4chan without even trying. So, yeah, like, Brian, again, I understand where you're coming from, like, from that standpoint, but that's not what Twitter is known for. And they actually do, even though they've been fucking up, they do try to at least enforce that. 8chan doesn't have that at all, you know? So
I
yeah.
still maintain, though, that instead of jumping right towards, like, so-and-so's promote CP, like, I think the community should have had more of a reaction of, wait, what the fuck? Do you guys not know what's going on here? As opposed to, like, everybody's just so quick to damn everybody else.
Yeah.
And, like,
Yeah, I agree with that.
This whole thing screams of, like, as listening to the whole story, I'm like, oh, they fucked up and they didn't even know it. They're going to have to backpedal so hard. I feel like that should be everybody's reaction. And maybe that's just me, you know.
No, you're right. Like the
No,
reaction should have been, you know, the meme. Oh, baby, what is you doing? That should have been the reaction. You know,
Yeah,
like, yeah, go ahead,
feel
Bruce.
like,
Yeah.
well, I feel they got dogpiled on and people are virtue signaling all this stuff. It's like, no, guys, this is like somebody telling, like, you know, a grandma, like, hey, I'm looking for a toy for my son. Well, I got toys in my shop here. Why don't you come inside? And it's a sex shop. You know,
Oh,
like,
God.
oh, you know, and does that make grandma a pervert? No, she got duped. I think they got suckered. And they're like, oh, well, this is great. We'll just do it on here. And they didn't know what they were getting into.
Man. By the way, I think this is easily the most uncomfortable segment of Throwdown we've ever done. Jesus Christ, I didn't want to know about some of these things right now.
Oh, man.
Fuck. All right, I'm moving on because I'm creeped out.
This is just from talking about HN. This isn't even going there.
My God, that's what I'm saying, right? Ugh. Anyway, yeah, THE, you fucked up. Jesus. All right, okay, now this ties back into what we were talking about earlier, you know, with the whole gamers kind of, you know, demanding too much. This is interesting, and this all ties up to something that happened just a couple minutes ago. Okay, so Amy Hennig was on, I forgot what site she was, but she was being interviewed, and she said something that caused a little bit of controversy on Twitter. But because people, you know, it caused controversy because people just read the headline. So basically, she said that a game like Uncharted, you know, that the original Uncharted would not be viable today. Everybody got mad, right? And it's like, if you read what she says, she's 100% right. You can't make a single player game that's just 7 hours long with no skill trees, no leveling. You can't do that anymore. She's 100% right. And Brett, this goes back to what you were saying. Gamers demand a lot of shit now. You know, like a game like the original Uncharted could not exist anymore. Maybe as an indie game, but think about God of War. How much shit that has in it. You know, that's a like 25-hour game minimum. You know, and it has, you know, leveling, crafting, skills, a mini kind of open worldish type of thing going on. Like, that's a modern, you know, game. Same thing with Spider-Man. That's a long fucking game, you know. You can't make anything like, and this is partly why Crackdown 3 was bashed, because it was one of those old school type of games from last gen, you know. People are not really accepting that. So I think Amy Hennig, who is known for her narrative-driven games, is 100% right about that. She's spot on. And interesting enough, she tweeted this out literally 4 hours ago. She goes, nuance and candor don't work in the era of clickbait headlines. Then Shuhei Yoshida replied with, yeah, single-player narrative-based games are dead. That's perfect. That's fucking perfect.
Oh, shit.
Damn, bring me that spice, Shuhei, man. That wasabi, son.
Snap.
Yeah, so yeah, bro, what's your take on that, man?
I mean, I have to agree. I've been reading about this, and I saw a really interesting discussion that brought up a good point in that we are asking more and more of our games, and we're not giving them the ability to become more and more. Like, we're not giving them the grain of salt that they need. For instance, we're not willing to pay more for games in order to get more content, more features, more polished assets. We're not really, for the most part, willing to let games bake longer. We get pissed off every time a game is pushed back. And if it's not absolutely amazing, we point to it and say, this was in development for blank years. I expected more. Like, we expect a finished, beautiful, gigantic product every 5 years. And the reality is that to create these giant masterpieces that, you know, even like Red Dead single player mode, like, that shit takes 10 years. So we're not willing to pay more money. We're not willing to pay the time. We're not willing to let them launch.
Hold on a second, Brett. Hey, Manny, can you mute yourself? Thank you. All right, go ahead, Brett.
We're not willing to let them launch and grow into their possibilities. I mean, I'm not saying that we should be okay with every broken game, but there might be a middle ground where if developers were more transparent with, this is the fledgling game that we're coming out with, and the base upon which we're going to build everything else, that maybe we shouldn't meet them in the middle and be kind of accommodating with that and say, like, okay, as long as what was here is finished, playable, and smooth, then I'm okay with that. And I might come back and continue to give you more money as you continue to build more content, therefore allowing them, more. They don't have to have such a large war chest built out, but we're not really open or accommodating to that idea either. So at the end of the day, gamers are stomping their foot and saying, no, I want this ultra long, huge experience with almost endless replayability that's going to get me through to the next game, which coincidentally are taking longer and longer to develop. So it's longer and longer between big games. You can't play 2-3 games a month anymore. You can hardly play 1 game a month anymore. I've been playing video games super religiously since I was 4 years old. I remember going to Blockbuster when I was little, and every fucking week there was a new thing. And then it got a little bit longer, and a little bit longer, a little bit longer. And now we're looking to new titles every 3-4 months. And so that's one of the reasons that I get so passionate about this is, yeah, to a certain extent, all of this quality assurance, all the fact that we can't take games with a grain of salt, that we can't allow games to be patched in the digital age is causing games to take longer and longer to develop, which means we see less and less of them. And the ones that we see are safer and safer bets. And that's not good for us as consumers. So all our temper tantrum is getting is more mediocre products. And yet we ask for more and more. And I don't want to...
It's very interesting that you mentioned this because, not long ago we were talking about, about certain games being not an expected length that is supposed to be expected. I feel like if you are talking about paying more money for more content, but I mean officially the game companies never put that bar in anything, saying, hey, listen, this is only an X amount of game. If you want even more than this, well, you're gonna have to pay more. But the minute that you say something like that, obviously people will just lose their shit.
Yeah. So. Yeah. I don't know what we do about this.
Yeah, I want to bring up something Glorious Word said. This is a perfect example. He says the last linear new IP was The Order, and that game got fucking slammed. That game got fucking slammed. Not only because they didn't have all the content people wanted, it didn't have content people expected the game to have that was never announced. Like, it goes back to what we're saying. People really expect a lot now. You can't just make an old game like you could before, It's yeah, go ahead, Brian.
Wouldn't that be Hellblade? That latest one.
And I'm glad you bring that up. I'm glad you bring this up. You know why that game didn't get bombed? Because it's an indie game. Indie games get away with that.
Also it did not cost $60.
Exactly, a $60 game from a AAA. If it doesn't have all the features people expect, it's gonna get slaughtered now. A game like Senua's Sacrifice, I believe was $30 from an indie game. Nobody gave a fuck. Like, yeah, that's cool. It's interesting. If that same game, Senua's Sacrifice, was $60 and it came exclusively from Sony, people would be fucking livid. It's interesting, man. But that's the world we live in now.
But I do feel like whatever happened to the $30 title, like I would like to see more companies.
They don't exist anymore, man.
Sort of Walmart won't carry them.
Yeah, okay, yes, that's right.
Perfect example. I was strolling through Walmart getting a tire fix, went in the video game aisle, and I saw a Fortnite armor pack, right? Something I'm pretty sure I would have seen online for maybe $10. It was $30. Came in a case on a disc. I have no idea why. Like, I don't even know if there was a disc in the case, actually. It could have just been a fucking code for all I know. But what I did realize is that I saw the huge price spike just for the privilege of sitting in a case in a really shitty Walmart. I mean, this place is like, there's good Walmarts and bad ones. This was one of the ones that was bad. Like, half the shit was unstocked, half the cases were bare. But it got the privilege of being in there. And I know for a fact so many games actually raise their retail price in order to get because Walmart doesn't want to carry it if it's less than $60. They just think it's not worth their time. They won't carry $30 games for the most part unless they just have extra space they want to fill, which means it's tough to get those orders shipped out, which means it's tough for people to view the game as a legitimate game unless they can find it at Walmart. It's a really weird catch-22. And then they raise the digital price to match the big box price because why the fuck not make more money? And it's going to seem weird if your digital copy is cheaper. It's one of the reasons we haven't seen digital copies cheaper. So we're actually also, as gamers, like unless I can find it in Target, it's not a real game, or it's not successful. Like the way that we measure success is also coming around to bite us in the ass. We'd have way more $30 games if we were actually open and accommodating to thinking that a $30 game could be a real full-fledged title.
Yeah, no, that's a big problem. And that's been going on for years. Like basically, if it's not $60, people just assume that it's of lower quality. They automatically assume that, you know. So that's a problem as well. And I don't even know how you could combat that. You know what I'm saying?
That's not in video games, man. That's. I mean, I'll be honest. There's a lot of tattoo artists that I know. They're not that great, but they catalog themselves as a premier and quality luxury kind of tattoo artist. I know people who have paid $2,800 for a tattoo the size of a grapefruit, and it's good, but it's not $2,800 good. So it really depends on how you market yourself and how things are marketed, and sometimes that shit works.
Yeah.
So it's in all kinds of other fields. It's in fucking jewelry. It's in cars. Like, who says how much a BMW is worth? People who make fucking BMWs. Like they wouldn't make them significantly cheaper. That would ruin certain brands.
It just goes with the whole idea of you get what you pay for. We've all heard that. So that's why people have that stuck in their mindset already. That, oh well, if I'm paying more, there's a reason. Like, for example, those Coach bags, right? Women love that. And one time I looked at them, I'm like, why are these things so expensive? $800, $1,000. They're handmade. So you have to pay somebody to make it. It's not made on like a factory line. So I'm like, all right, well, I guess that's why. So that's why people link it up with quality.
Yeah, no, you're right about that. People think if you pay more, you get a better quality, even though that's not true. Like, for example, you know, you could buy Tylenol, or you could buy a set of Acetaminophen, which is way cheaper, but has the same effects, you know? But people, you're right, that's how people are, you know?
I can get the same tattoo for $150 or $300.
Yeah.
I can tell you as a craftsperson that, no, I can give you I have to be careful. Like, even if I really want to do a tattoo and I'm not busy, or if I'm sitting around, I'm like, man, my appointment canceled. I've got an extra 4 hours. Somebody comes in. I could give them a half price tattoo, but I also can't give them a half price tattoo. I cannot devalue my brand. It's such an insubstantial thing. Like, it's ethereal. It doesn't physically exist. So it's only how much I say it is, which is how much I value my time, you know, plus my expenses and my value and supply, and like this whole little fucking algorithm. But yeah, I can break that. I can cheat that. But if I do that, it also hurts me in the long run, because then the next person comes by and they say, well, you know, you gave this guy a tattoo for, you know, $100 an hour. Why the fuck can't I get that? Then all of a sudden my price is down to $100 an hour. And I only have so many hours of the day. That limits my earning potential. And then I need to start raising it again for supply and demand. And eventually I just have my prices all over the place, instead of actually predicting where my value lies and calling that price and then sticking with that price. So I can tell you that definitely, like, and there are some clients that I have to deal with that I know, like, if I drop my price too low, they'll be fucking shocked that, you know, I'll see a tattoo I really want to do. I'll throw out a good price. I'll start tattooing them. They'll ask me how long I've been tattooing. I say 15 years, and they're fucking shocked. Like, yeah, you should be paying more for this. I've actually had to learn and teach my apprentice that you can't just give deals to people by saying a low price. You can't say, oh, that's $150. You have to say, that would normally be $225, but I'm going to give you $75 off. If you don't announce the deal, all you're doing is devaluing your product. You're not actually making them happy. All they know is their tattoo costs less. And so in scenario A and scenario B, they're paying the same price. They're still paying $175 or whatever it was, right? But in one scenario, they realize that that product is worth $225. And that feels like splitting hairs, but it's super, super important when dealing with people. There's a psychology that goes into this whole thing, and gaming's tapped into that. Unfortunately, we find ourselves in this vicious loop where it crawls back on itself, where, like I said, I feel like I hate to say we as gamers are entitled, because I'm not jumping on that bandwagon. Personally, I hate that that's a thing that's going on lately. But I will say that we have come to expect, in my opinion, too much, and we've left the industry no way to shift to accommodate us. And we have to kind of get together as a community and figure out what we need to do about this, because a lot of times we're a very disjointed community. Half of us yelling that a game is release half-baked. The other half is really yelling that it's been delayed too often. There's one thing we're going to have unity on. Developers listen to us. We need to figure out what the message that we're broadcasting is, though. Or we're just going to continue to get more and more Michael Bay-esque games.
Well, the only problem with what you're saying is that developers do listen to us, but publishers listen to investors. So that's the disconnect we're having. You know, you'll get like, look at the Anthem guys. They're like, oh yes, we hear the community, blah blah blah. Do you think the guys at the top of EA give a shit what we say about Anthem? They don't care that you love it. They don't care. They just care that you're buying it, right? And they care that the investors are buying into them. That's who they listen to. So they really don't care, like, if you know, and guys like Bobby Kotick has said if he could make games $80 or $100 a pop, he would. It's just because the rest of the industry is setting the price. Activision hasn't done that because he's a greedy piece of shit. But he would do things like that. And the thing is, he don't need to do that because you're getting investors pouring in millions of dollars to you at the top. And then you're selling a product on it from us. So you don't need to gouge us. He just wants to gouge us because he gets more money if he does that.
Yeah, that's exactly what's happening. But anyway, just to bring it back around, I just found it interesting how people got mad at Amy Hennig for saying exactly the truth. Those kind of games are not viable anymore, you know? Even though, again, those are the kind of games I like, but those I recognize that shit don't exist no more. You know, and it's kind of sad. Like, why can't we have a world where a game like the original Uncharted is sold for $30? Like Brett said, people are going to think it's cheap, you know, and not really, or think it's of low quality. It's kind of sad that we can only have either indie games or massive AAA games. The shit in the middle is like all but gone. You know, it's crazy.
In fairness, there is some substance to that argument, because making a game today like Uncharted 1 would be significantly easier. There's so many programs that you can use, so many blank assets, templates, engines, things that you can do. Like, look at fucking Dreams. Like, you can have a single person in a couple of weeks start to build a good chunk of a world if given an adequately advanced set of tools. Animation has kind of come the same way. I think Manny will attest to that. Like, having the ability, look how Brave was animated. Brave was basically stop motion animation done with digital puppets. It wasn't even, animated, and that helped to save a lot in labor. I mean, yes, it was still a very expensive, labor intensive project, but less so than its predecessors. I
mean, that's all CG is anyway. They're just puppets that are digital as opposed to being physical.
Yeah. By the way, I need to just clear this up. She was mostly coming at this from like a developer standpoint. Like, if she were to come to a publisher, go, hey, I want to make a 7-hour single player game that's linear. No publisher would make that game now. That's where she was coming at it from.
It's easier to make now, is my point.
Oh, no, I agree with you, but like I don't think the ease of it is really like the publisher's going to go,
for a $60 price tag. It does matter.
No, but I'm talking about the publisher. Okay, how are we going to keep getting more money out of this? Does it have DLCs? Does it have this and that and the other thing?
Multiplayer.
Like, that's the first thing you're going to be thinking of, and that's where she was really coming at it from. Is it going to have multiplayer? Is it going to have this? Is it going to have the blah, 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 all this other shit?
I think it has more to do with content. Like, I think at this point, like you can make a single player game. It just can't be 7 hours.
Yeah, you need more.
It doesn't have to have skill trees necessarily. It just has to have intriguing gameplay that can hold you, and I think it's easier to make that. A single person could make the original Uncharted, and that sounds.
They can't. Because you still need voice actors, a script writer, all this other stuff.
For the most part, I mean, again.
Okay, so here's the thing. If a single person can make Uncharted, which was more than a 7-hour experience, how come nobody's ever done it?
By today's standards,
nobody's done
trying to do it. Look at a lot of the end of that sentence, which I didn't get to was with adequate tools. Look at a lot of indie games. There's a lot of indie games made by just
no indie game has ever gotten to that point yet.
Yeah, there is no indie game out now that looks as good as, or it has the same level of polish and all that as the original Uncharted. Yeah.
No.
Can I just jump in like really quick on what Brett said about like one guy making game? There's a game called Lost Soul Aside, and that was made by one person.
Is it on the same level as Uncharted?
I think it's more of a DMC type game, but still, the fact
Is that the
one
game?
guy-
I would say from a quality. I would say from a quality standpoint, I would put it above Uncharted 1.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, Brian. Yeah, that is a good example.
But
Actually,
but here's the thing: how long is it taking him to develop that single game?
Well, he got bought out by Sony, so everything he's doing beyond what we previously saw is, now Sony is in control of the, how much we know about what's going on as far as progression of that game. So whenever Sony has that next PlayStation experience, we might see what has been going on with that game.
I think the thing about it is that with that one guy doing it, yeah, it would have taken him. He would have been able to do it, but it would have taken years to do it. He had already been like 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, I disagree that one. Yeah, I disagree that a single person can make a game, even like Uncharted nowadays. That game is
okay. Because you got I forget sometimes that I'm arguing with Tony here.
Fuck does that mean?
That Tony Ball baby.
Can't be general. Like you hang up on
made adamantium.
Fuck you, Riku.
My point is that a single person now could do the job of a whole team back in the day of Uncharted 1 and come out with what would be considered a AAA studio quality game. Like if you could make a game now with a 1 to 3 person team with the tools available today, put it in a time machine and fucking send it back to the days of Uncharted 1, it would be regarded as a fully fleshed out, high quality, fully polished AAA title. So I'm saying that it's gotten easier to do more. So it's not completely unacceptable for us to expect more, but the quantity of what we're expecting, that we're asking way more than the tools allow us. And I would, take for example, Dreams. Somebody recreated a small portion of Dead Space in Dreams. When the original Dead Space was released, that was not something that a single person could do. Fucking period.
Here's the thing. Here's the caveat.
Really quickly, about the whole Dreams thing. They only recreated the looks of the game, none of the actual mechanics of the game. Yeah, that's one thing that people love to point out. Oh yeah, they recreated this game. It's like, no, they recreated the look of the game, not the actual play of the game. Like the play of the game is a whole nother thing.
But okay, so like we can either move forward in time or backward in time, hypothetically. It just depends on how hypothetical you're willing to get. I can either say, A, given enough time, tools will become sophisticated enough that it will be easier and easier to replicate the quality that we consider today for a AAA game. In 10, 12, 15 years, it won't be that hard for somebody to render that shit. They'll just put in their physics engine, render their world, drop in some pre-rendered rocks, some trees, drop some bad guys, campaign starts, boom, you're good to go. Look at Project Spark. Or I could go back 15 years and say, how easy would it be today to create a game that would be considered fully fledged, highly polished on the PlayStation 2 or on the Dreamcast or even on the Super Nintendo. That shit is being made daily on Steam. Each day, our tools get better and we're able to make more with less. We can do more with smaller teams, and you're seeing single creators creating whole games. Granted, they're not by today's caliber, but they're definitely light years beyond what an equal amount of work would be able to do 10, 15 years ago. So my only point here is it's getting easier to develop games. It's not completely unreasonable for us to be asking for more. It is unreasonable for the amount more that we're asking, though.
Yeah. By the way, I want to give a shout out to the anonymous gifter who's giving out free subscriptions to people. That's money in our pocket, so thank you, whoever you are.
Thank you, kind sir or madam.
Yes, exactly. All right, man.
A lot.
Yeah. Anything else you guys want to throw on this? We only got a couple more topics here.
Nope.
All right. Cool. Go ahead, Brian.
I can jump in. Again, I do agree with what Amy is saying, and this is actually one of the reasons why I just generally take a disinterest in AAA games, because again, typical games just have this habit of like just wanting to load crap in there for no reason. So yeah,
Nah,
so hence why when I heard that God War was again like an RPG type mechanic with loot, I'm like, why does it need it? Like the game itself was fine. It didn't like not every game needs some RPG mechanics. Not every game needs loot. It's perfectly fine to make games without that. Like I think it's perfectly fine to not have that in games. But yet now it seems like that's like the AAA thing that everyone just wants to shove in their games.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, I agree.
it's-
I
I
agree.
just don't understand the need to do that, and that was another reason why I was not a fan of God of War. I'm also not a fan of Zero Dawn. I'm like, it just seems like they're just shoving this stuff in there just to tick a damn box. Like, don't tick the box. You know, make your game unique. Make it not feel the same. And yeah, so again, I totally agree
The
with what
problem,
Amy's saying.
the problem is gamers are going to demand that shit. That's the problem. I agree with you. Like, I would prefer these games were more stripped down to the point, but that doesn't fly now. Audiences would be pissed. You know.
Yeah,
That's
they're
the
like, hey,
problem.
why isn't there a skill tree?
Yeah, where's
Why
the
can't-
skill
I can't
tree?
customize weapons?
Yeah.
I disagree with what she said, because as long as you make a good game, people will flock to it. Like
That
doesn't-
the thing is that it has nothing to do with making a good game or not. Everybody has an idea for a good game. It's
No,
the
no,
thing.
there's a
it's
difference
the-
between thinking about making one and actually doing a good one.
No, what I'm saying, like what I'm saying is like, you know, you can have a good idea and you can go to somebody with a brilliant game design, but at the same time, big companies are not looking for that anymore. They're not looking
Yeah.
for. They're looking for the other, the other, you know, looking for the other side. Like, oh, how much can you throw onto, how much can you throw onto this to make more money for us?
Let's
look at
let's look at it like
look at
this.
the
Like,
handfuls
Yeah,
Star
basically,
Wars games.
yeah, like basically, like you know, somebody could go up to one of these publishers with a great idea for a game like Uncharted, that shit'll get rejected because it doesn't have all that shit that people expect now. That's the
no, but
problem.
like,
To be
No, no,
honest,
no,
that's
but
that's
that's
exactly what she was
answering-
trying to sell with the Star Wars game.
Yeah,
that's answering two different questions.
no, it's not. It's the same one.
No, it's like what Amy Hennig said is that single player games, like, you can't make them anymore because they're not viable in the market. But I don't think that's true. I mean, you guys are saying that single player games are not viable for the studio heads to make because they think they want to maximize their profits. That I agree with. I
But
don't
that's-
think that's the same thing.
But it is the same thing. It's exactly the same thing because
No.
they're looking for the market. Understand?
Well, they're looking for the market, but that's because they're short-minded and they're short.
They are short-minded. That's why we keep getting the same fucking games.
But if they make a single-player game with nothing else other than a really good single-player game, and it could succeed pretty
no, it
easily.
won't. No, it won't. No, it
But
won't.
then that's the problem,
That's-
Carlos.
that's
Like
not what they're
the
saying,
publishers
though.
won't want to fund that, and that's what we're saying. Like it's a shame because publishers won't want to fund
Yeah, they
that.
won't. Yeah, you're right
Like,
about that.
They keep pushing stuff in there that doesn't need to be in there. Like, and
But do
hence
you-
why you get games that have like tax-on
Actually-
systems that shouldn't be there.
Yeah, Brian. Let me take it.
notice
Yeah.
the companies that have, invested into those sorts of things. Places like Sony, even Microsoft, they literally are putting their money into it. But all the other companies are all looking for everything else. Like, hey, does this have an online mode? Does
Yeah.
this
By the
have
way, I
this?
want to tie
How
it all
many
in.
deals- so
Yeah,
much
I want to tie.
DLC
I want
do
to tie it all in together right now. Right. Okay. Let's just say, for the sake of argument, okay. First of all, publisher will not greenlight a game like that. But on the off chance they do, the fucking fans are going to destroy it because it doesn't have all that shit. You know, so it's not viable in both cases. Understand? But again,
I disagree.
Crackdown is a perfect example. That game is very bare bones. It got fucking slaughtered,
But
even though it's a good game. You know,
It's a mediocre game.
but why do you think it's mediocre? Because it doesn't have all that shit people expect. You know?
No, like if you make like you mentioned it yourself, Uncharted. If they release if we've never gotten an Uncharted game and they release Uncharted 1 this gen, then that shit would be crazy.
No, it
would
wouldn't.
be
No, it
popular.
wouldn't. People are like, what the fuck? Where's the leveling? Where's the loot? Where's this? Where's that? Where's the other shit?
We literally had a discussion about how fucking Pokemon hasn't changed in the last 30
Yeah,
years. or
but that
however
has a
long it is.
lot of content in it. That's the
It
thing.
does. You said it's
Monster
a,
Hunter.
It has a lot of content, and to be honest, it's Nintendo making that investment. They can make that sort of investment in a single player game without with just the game. Same
Yeah,
thing with
Nintendo
older
is an
titles.
outlier. That's a good point. Nintendo is an outlier when it comes to this stuff.
Most
Yeah,
first parties are outliers. Those people, the places like Nintendo and Sony and Microsoft are the ones that are investing in single player games.
yeah, but
with
look
no
at God of War and
additional
Spider-Man. It
things.
still has all that extra shit that people expect.
Okay, Tony.
now. Yeah.
Riddle me this.
Yeah.
Monster Hunter and Resident Evil were both successful.
Yes.
Resident Evil. Oh, there you go. Resident
Yeah.
Evil 2
Yes.
was a success. That didn't have a lot of content. It was just a standalone
Ki-
survival.
Kingdom
horror.
Hearts.
But there's a reason why that game was successful. You know why it's successful? Because it remade a game that was already established. That's why. If
Nostalgia,
Resident
baby.
listen,
No.
listen. No, let me finish. If Resident Evil came out as a game with no history, that shit would have fucking bombed. I guarantee you that. It's the nostalgia that sold that game.
Nah,
telling-
I mean,
I'm
the
telling
nostalgia
you.
helped.
No, the nostalgia
I
is
don't-
is the main reason that game
Tony,
sold.
when it comes to Resident Evil 2, even though you are correct, nostalgia definitely did help it sell, and the franchise and what it is definitely helped it sell. It's still a refined game.
Oh,
at the
it's
end
an
of the day.
excellent game, but if it came out, if there
as
was
far
no
as
other,
bombing go,
if that game came out
no,
as is
it
with
would've-
no history of Resident Evil, the same excellent game, it would not have done as good. People would be like, "What the fuck is all this other stuff?"
No. See, now you're saying it would have not done as good. You said bombed. a
Okay,
second
bombed. Okay, whatever. It's the same fucking
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah,
you know?
I think-
Not put
Hey,
words in my fucking mouth. you
No.
know? It's the same
I'm
shit.
just saying. You said all I'm saying is you
Yeah.
said bombed. I don't think it would have bombed. It would have
Okay.
did.
Okay,
well,
I think it would have
but
bombed.
As far as the critical acclaim that it's getting, it definitely wouldn't have been as high as it is
Yeah,
right
a
now. I
new
agree with
IP
you with that.
a
But it
new
would
IP
not. It would not.
a new IP dropping like that. With
It would have been like what is it on Metacritic? Like a 90 something. It would have been like an 84 probably.
No, it
And
probably would have
sold.
It would have been lower than that. It would have been like, where's the
As a
leveling?
horror game,
Where's
we
that?
don't really
Yeah.
because that's the thing. We don't really have that many games in that horror survival place. So if it came out today and this is a new horror survival game, people would have accepted it. But since it would be a new thing, it wouldn't, like I said, the nostalgia that it has connected to it right now. Like I said, it would have been around like an 84, and it probably would have sold well, but not as amazing as it is right
Man,
now.
If it would have came out now, people would have been like, "Well, we had The Last of Us. This is not
there
as
you
good
go.
as The
It's
Last
not a
of Us."
survival
You're
horror
right.
game.
Exactly.
Like I
is.
said, but The Last of Us is like a 90 something on Metacritic.
No,
like
no,
I
no,
said,
no,
I don't
but,
think.
but Adam brings up a good point though, because people are, oh, where's the crafting in this? Where's this, that, the
Yeah.
other thing? You know?
Yeah.
Oh,
If it was
please, man,
brand
the
new,
crafting
Resident
on The
Evil
Last
2
of Us
came
was-
out
I don't know if
now.
they would ask for crafting, but it still has these survival part of the game.
Where's
where you
the
have to go
online
around
mode?
Yeah, where's the online mode? Exactly. People would ask
but
for
you-
all that shit.
No, I'm not saying people wouldn't have asked for that, but all I'm saying is that it wouldn't have. It still would have been received well.
All right, I disagree with that. I think like Brett was saying, people demand way too fucking much now. You know?
Yeah, but I think they demand things in different ways than what you're categorizing. And I find it very interesting that all of you take or comment to mean something different.
That is
Yeah,
interesting.
like I said, I don't know. So, what do you think it would have been like? What a low 70 on Metacritic if it didn't have
been a
anything?
bomb as a 60.
true.
Like, yeah.
You think it would've been
No. Here's the
80s?
thing. I think critically it would have done pretty good. Probably 75-ish.
75?
Yeah, 75-ish. But I think
Interesting.
sales wise, it would be like
Oh, yeah.
on Metacritic for 1 month. I mean, on NPD 1 month, and that's it. You know?
Yeah, I can agree with that. I think it would have been a lot higher than a
Were-
70. Probably
Were
like
people
a low 80,
complaining
but-
about the length of this game?
No,
too?
but,
About-
and the few people that did, you know what people replied. That's how the old game was. That's the defense. The old game saves this one. You know. Again, this is a 15-hour game. This is a 15-hour
Was
game.
this
If you play both of them.
how much do you have to pay for this game again?
It's a $60 game, I believe.
Yeah, it's a full
Yeah, it's a full
It's a full price. No one complained about that because that nostalgia, man. I'm telling you. And again, I'm not changing my mind on this. Like, this game released as is, but with no prior history, it would tank. It would fucking bomb. You know?
Nah, yeah, you're right. People are going to complain about it, but sometimes I think you're overblowing the backlash. Like you're always going to have people bitching and moaning about shit about video games.
Yeah, that's true.
Whatever
I remember people were complaining about The Last of Us, saying that as far as its story, as far as the single player, all they felt like they were doing for majority of the time was moving a plank over here, helping.
we have people
girl
in the show
across
that
the
complain
water.
about that game every day.
We helping girl
damn.
parts. Yeah, so I mean, there's obviously complaints about everything. You're gonna find complaints about any type of game, but yeah, like I said, I don't think it would have bombed. I think it would just did decent and then not be talked about as much as
I think it would have been critically, well received, not majorly received. I think it would have been well received, but I think it would have flopped fucking sales wise because gamers are too fucking bitchy, Anyway, let's move on because we still got a couple of things here. Okay, rumor town. But this is more of us beating our chest again. But it's just a rumor, so take it with a huge grain of salt. The rumor is that Microsoft has discussed bringing Xbox Game Pass to PS4. Last week we talked about how it's rumored that it's coming to Switch. Now the rumor is PS4.
It's funny because we posted a question about this very same thing.
Yep, on the Throwdown Twitters. That's right. So Adam, go ahead, man.
I don't. This is just clickbait because people are like, "Oh, really? Are they gonna do it?" Hey, guess where else they could show up? I don't believe this shit.
I mean, it wouldn't be a stretch.
I don't think so. Yeah.
Look, but I mean, it's not on maybe on I can see Microsoft pushing for it, but there's no way Sony's gonna do it. Hell, they don't even want to play nice with others right now.
And by the way, Manny, I'm sorry to cut you off. Adam hit it on the head here. I think Microsoft is open to this, right? Possibly. Sony, that's a whole other story.
It would be a weird thing because obviously, and I thought about this when it was announced, where it's like, okay, yes, I think Sony would be down for all the Microsoft exclusives, but they definitely would not be down for them selling all the third party, having all the third party titles that they have on there as well. No, so it's like, hey, you can get Assassin's Creed. You can get Assassin's Creed. Well, we sell Assassin's Creed in our store. Why would we want to send people who like Assassin's Creed there?
Yeah. But plus it just makes the whole thing with Xbox Game Pass on Switch makes better sense because there's many of those games that Switch just can't play natively. It just won't happen. So it's okay. We understand we're not going to get Odyssey or Division and all that stuff, but you can use Game Pass and you can still play on our console and play those games. But it's up to you. But I think that's how it works out. You can't make that kind of comparison if you put it on PS4 because those games already work on PS4.
I don't think it really is just a comparison thing. I think it's just a money thing. I think if it were ever to happen, and this is again speculation in general, if it ever does happen, it would probably only be for Microsoft exclusives and not anything else.
Speaking of that, did you guys see that Splatoon 2 running on an Xbox One?
Word.
Wait, it was the splash screen. Somebody had you could see the game on it. So
I don't believe you.
I'll find it. But when I saw that, I'm like, because maybe something has to go the other way when they announce this deal. We know that they're going to port some games over, and maybe they say, you know what, it's a shooter.
They never said
very interesting
about porting any games over.
No, Xbox, Microsoft did. They have a bunch of games that they're porting over. That was the whole thing.
Over the Nintendo's dead body.
White Forest and a few other things they're porting over to the Switch.
All their independent titles.
They're smaller ones, yeah.
Yeah.
I prefer independent-ish. But again, rumor town. But again, because I've been saying this for a couple weeks, like I would not be surprised if this ever happens.
This is false. This is false.
To be honest,
100%.
Now, Brett, would you say it's fake news?
Oh, no, absolutely. I mean, come on, it's too convenient. Like Adam already hit it on the head. This is reactionary to the Switch news. It is
a reactionary, but I do think it is a possible future for Microsoft in general. Selling hardware is extremely, they lose so much money in doing it. What if Xbox never existed and all Xbox was just some software that you installed onto your tablet PC or onto your phone
but we're talking 10 years down the road. This is not going to happen as long as they come out with hardware, and they've already confirmed they're coming out with hardware for this next generation. So we're talking about the generation after this generation, which is going to be completely determined by the success of this upcoming generation and their market share towards about the middle of it. So pretty much we're playing pool with invisible balls half a decade out. which I find, that all of that could change. What really matters right now is no, they're not doing it right now, as long as they're making a system, and they are making a system. So until that thing crashes and burns and Microsoft exits the console race completely, this is not going to be a thing.
But who's to say that this thing couldn't exist in tandem? It is a possibility.
That
with
Microsoft
this service
would give all of their exclusive games for free to PlayStation.
They are not giving exclusive games. They're not giving anybody exclusive games because these games only exist on their service. It's an ecosystem exclusive as opposed to a console exclusive.
Yeah,
so the only way that you can play any Microsoft exclusive is if you're already on the service, and that's how it's going to work.
Which removes any incentive to buy their console. As why would you buy a console that only plays half the games in the market versus a console that plays all the games? They would be sinking the Xbox.
But Brett, that's the thing, and this is what I've been saying. I think Microsoft is potentially trying to leave the hardware thing altogether and just make Xbox a brand.
But they're not. They've already announced that they're coming out with another Xbox.
Oh, no. This is obviously next gen is coming. We already know that. I'm saying I'm looking further down the line. I would not be surprised if Microsoft decides, you know what? Fuck the hardware business. We're just going to do strictly software.
Oh, no.
Now, you know?
Absolutely. If this next generation doesn't go well. But if this next generation goes well, fuck no, they're not doing that.
I agree with that.
And so the problem is then we're guessing not about this coming generation, but about the generation after that, which is probably about 10 years off. And there's a million and one things that happen between now and then that are going to change the outcome. So I feel like guessing that far off, like, it's not only irrelevant, like nobody has a crystal ball that clear. There's so many things that could change that, we could look and say, if they do well, then this, if they don't do well, then this. But right now, like and here's the other thing. If there's a rumor now about something that Microsoft is going to do in 10 years that Microsoft itself has no way that they could have possibly determined if they themselves are going to do this thing in 10 years, I'm going to call bullshit on that rumor.
I think that's fair. And by the way, I think we should have made that clearer. Like Xbox is still making an extra console. They already announced it. It's coming, But I think you're right about that. It's like, if this is for like 10 years down the road, that's a little hard because the companies switch lanes like every few months, So, I think that's fair. But it is interesting that there's rumors floating around now. But you're probably right. It's probably more because of the Switch one,
They're not even talking about this in Microsoft boardrooms right now. There's not even the upper echelon of idea guys are not talking about this, which means that there's no way that somebody overheard it in the elevator. There's no information to be leaked. I'm just saying, logically, if you follow the trail, there's no place where this rumor originated that would have been substantiated, and then there's no way it would have found its way onto the street. There's not a kernel of truth here that could be. The Nintendo one, I can absolutely understand, because that could be an immediate thing where they're trying to expand their brand into a handheld territory without taking the risk. That could be an immediate thing. That's probably already in the talks and people have already heard about this. But just like I said, the idea that there's an Xbox executive being like, next decade, we're going to do this. Shannon, write this down. And I'm like, even if that did happen, what are the chances that somebody else was walking by the room when he yelled that to Shannon and went, "Oh shit!" Then
you heard that, son?
Yeah, like none of this makes any sense if you look at it critically, which is why I have to say 100%. This has to be false information.
On both sides, I also agree with what Adam said. Like, didn't the American president of Sony, what's his name? Can't remember. Anyway, he came out and said that it's developers' fault that crossplay didn't happen, even though we damn well know that it's their fault. This is why I agree with Adam. Like, Sony wants no part of this, right? They can't even play nice. And they tried to deflect the blame on developers. I'm like, motherfucking developers were getting crossplay to work, and you told them to pull it out.
Yeah, no, you're right about that. Like, even if Microsoft was discussing this, Sony would be like, no, we don't want that shit. It's interesting, man.
They got their own live service.
Well, they're already. I mean, they don't allow the other services like the EA Plays or the Ubisoft stuff on there, anyways. So why would they let that happen too?
Yeah, it's interesting, man. Again, just threw it in there for fun. I wanted to get you guys' reactions to it. All right, and then the last thing, threw this in here for fun, and on a positive note. Horizon Zero Dawn, I think it's going to be celebrating its 2-year anniversary in a couple weeks, or if not already, has sold 10 million copies. So that's pretty good for a new IP, but again,
unless you're on Nintendo.
What happened? Yeah, unless you're Nintendo, because think about it like this, right? 2 years to sell 10 million copies for this. Smash Brothers sold fucking 10 million in a month, But Smash Brothers is a long-lasting, thing. By the way, what was the last Nintendo new IP that sold that much? Now that you brought it up, Brett.
What was the last Nintendo new IP?
Yeah,
Splatoon is, I would say Splatoon would be the last one to sell.
Yeah.
Well,
the Splatoon sell. I mean, I'm not trying to compare, but
Splatoon sold like a motherfucker.
Yeah, I can't remember what Splatoon sold. I just remember people saying Splatoon sold really well.
Yeah,
so
probably
go do your research.
Yeah, Brian. Clickety click. So that's pretty good, and I think that ensures that we're probably getting a sequel, and it probably ensures we're probably not going to get Killzone anytime soon.
Oh man.
Which
I'll miss you.
I really think that
Killzone's in the dead zone.
It's about time that they kind of moved on from the Halo killer.
Yeah, exactly. That shit is played out, son.
You can't be a Halo killer when
Halo's dead.
It's always been like put in that position. Oh, it's Sony's Halo, and I feel like that's not a good place to be, because you're constantly trying to people are always constantly comparing the two, and I feel like as good as Killzone was, it could never really hold a candle to even one of the other Halo games.
Yeah. By the way, quickly,
the numbered ones.
So, who said that? I think it was SoDep. Yeah, he says ARMS was the last new Nintendo IP.
Oh, I was wondering about if that would actually count. I have no idea how.
ARMS was more recent, but I could have.
Yeah,
I don't know. It sold more.
Actually,
did it?
And Splatoon sold 8 million, the original one.
Splatoon 2, 8.27 million.
Damn.
Yeah, like I said, I heard it did well. So
yeah. But going back to what Manny said, it's like, okay, yeah, you're right. The only reason Killzone existed was to be the Halo killer. That's kind of irrelevant now, And now, Killzone also has to compete with all those other FPS games. Like, oh my God, just thinking about this hurts me.
A Killzone Battle Royale, baby. Let's
exactly. That isn't that sad that the only way Killzone could survive now is being a fucking Battle Royale game.
They would have to. They would. I mean, here's the thing. They would have to reinvent the series. But I mean, I think it would also,
well, you don't need to do that, but just throw a bunch of people on a fucking shrinking map and you're done.
Well, that's
the thing. You remember
Killzone? That's also reinventing it. But I think in general, it has to sort of change itself in order to continue to stay sort of relevant. And I almost feel like Guerrilla Games is probably not that too keen on going into Killzone world anymore,
It could be.
Can I ask, did anybody was Killzone really a good game, do you think?
Yes, it was. Yes, it was. Regardless of what people say, as a first-person shooter from a gameplay standpoint, beside not counting Killzone 2.
Yeah, hold on,
I'm talking about mechanics.
Rico, I'm just gonna pause you right now because I want Brett to finish his question. Then you could go off. All right, go ahead, Brett. Yeah, finish your question.
No, this is going fine. Let's just.
Okay, go ahead. Throw down. Let's fucking go.
Okay, so are we talking mechanically? Because if we're talking mechanically, I will agree. But the atmosphere, the story, and the
I think the atmosphere was fine, and the story, as far as Killzone 2 and the 3, it was going in the right direction. It was
going in the right direction by its third iteration. Its setting was uninspired. Its story was all over the place with borrowed elements. I'm not saying it was
that's the one in Shadowfall. 2 and 3, not necessarily. So that's I guess that's what 50%.
I mean, the first one just honestly got off to a
first
bad
one
foot.
Forgettable. Yeah.
And like I feel like it eventually did kind of grow into its own, but you can't live entirely off mechanics. And it was just non-memorable. As
a first-person shooter,
you're living off mechanics. Well, you're living off mechanics with Anthem, though, son.
I know. Well, see, that's the thing is, it wasn't new or refreshing. It was just polished. It was solid.
So was Killzone. As far as from a gameplay standpoint, Shadowfall was a polished first-person shooter.
Killzone was polished as a motherfucker, but I don't feel like it had enough character. It didn't have enough
And Anthem does?
Weirdly, I feel like it does, but that might just be me. I'm not going to try and argue that point.
I would say, as far as characters, Killzone 2's main character was actually really good, and 3's.
I don't mean characters in the game. I mean like the character of the game. Like the game basically felt like a futuristic Wolfenstein. Like it didn't feel inspired, and I didn't as smooth and buttery as the shooting.
What was that other exclusive
Dude,
PS3?
here's the thing.
Haze?
No, there was another one. Were you like a plumber or something?
Man.
Were you a plumber or something like that? It was, what was it? They made like 2 or 3 of them.
Hold on, because I need to do this. Brian, please explain what Killzone is. I love your version of it.
Me? Why? What do I have?
Space Nazis.
Oh yeah, it's the space Nazis. Like think about it, it's space Nazis.
Yeah, Resistance, Adam.
Resistance. There you go. What happened to that?
Yeah, thank you, mighty nerd.
It was a plumber?
Insomniac decided to do Spider-Man instead.
Well, they did Sunset Overdrive.
Yeah, and that too. You know.
Nonetheless,
go ahead, Riku.
Yeah,
defend Killzone, baby.
Oh yeah, I will, because it's my favorite first-person shooter, and for a good reason. Fucking it, like Brett agreed. From a gameplay standpoint, it is refined, and from as far as 2 had going for it, which it is still Guerrilla Games' highest rated game, regardless of when it came out. It had a great story behind it also, and it had awesome bosses. And Killzone 2 in particular was phenomenal, even from its multiplayer standpoint. The only thing people had an issue with Killzone 2 was the learning curve behind, its aiming and whatnot, because it was, vastly different than what they were used to. The Call of Duty, all this stuff being easy to just point and shoot. You actually had to learn it. As far as 3, they refined it for its gameplay, but then obviously they lost it with the story. And with Shadowfall, they refined the gameplay even more, but the story also went downwards as far as that. But literally everything else about Killzone, like I don't like the fact that everyone sits there and drills Killzone for its story. When it comes to other first-person shooters, they don't really go that heavy on the story. I mean, sure, Call of Duty, but where's Call of Duty now? Where's Call of Duty story now? It's not even in the fucking game.
It's not the story that I rag on.
No, I'm talking about the mass majority of people. They're like, anytime someone mentions Killzone in today's age, they always say, "Oh, the story was bad." Can you talk about literally anything else about Killzone though?
Okay,
I guess those were fine. Exactly. I don't think Guerrilla Games should drop the franchise and never come back to it. Sure, go ahead and work on Horizon, but don't forget about Killzone. I want a Killzone 4.
Okay, see, here's the thing. First of all, people are idiots. Okay. And that works in several ways. And I mean this, whatever, that works in several ways. One of those ways that I run into on a daily basis is that people use the wrong terminology for just about everything. They oversimplify and they pack things in. So personally, my issue with Killzone isn't necessarily the story as much as the world building. The world building feels weak. I don't feel
I can agree with that.
This is part of it.
I would say after three and above. Yeah, I'll agree with that.
So I think, and the big problem here is the context that we're talking about this is in comparison to Halo. Unfortunately, it wasn't even the gaming community. It was Sony saying, this is our answer to Halo. And Halo had this amazing world that was larger than life. Everything in it felt epic. Everything in it felt new and futuristic. It had a distinct style elements to it.
James Cameron Aliens.
Okay, yeah, no, pretty much. And I fucking love that shit, and it worked. But even like, the original, the fucking Halo, the giant ring, like it had more of those big moments, and that scope and that scale I feel was missing from Killzone, and that's unfortunate.
You're talking about when you say Killzone, you're talking about every single one of them.
I'm talking about because Killzone is a franchise. I'm talking about
when you say big moments, that was all Killzone 2.
Well, Killzone was missing the most important part that Halo has, and that's I don't know about music. I would say I would say as far as music, it was on the same level. But if I were to answer yours, oh yeah, definitely. I prefer Killzone. Oh yeah, Killzone 2 and 3. If there's anything 3 actually did right, it was its music.
But
I would say if Killzone's missing anything that
The one thing
Halo had, it's a Master Chief.
I think the one thing that everybody's debating about Killzone versus Halo, where nobody's really played both both games.
Yeah,
I played Halo the other day.
Carlos, that's the thing though. You didn't. I've played some Halo. You've played some Killzone. Neither one of us has played both of them to the equal amount of degree.
Well, I played thousands of hours of Halo, so you can't even compare them.
I didn't play 1,000 hours of Killzone, but I did play hundreds of hours of Killzone. I played certain matches in Killzone that lasted 2 hours long, and you would come out the match with 700 kills.
I've lasted matches in Halo that lasted days.
Hiding behind a glitch?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not actually out there running and shooting.
Yeah, but it's dedication,
for
man.
2 hours. I know it's the dedication. My dedication for Killzone is probably just as heavy as yours.
Fucking Carlos had a diaper on, so you didn't go to the bathroom.
Just in a different way. All I'm saying, I'm only here to defend Killzone as far as it existing as a franchise moving forward. I never said it was better than Halo. Never said that it was what Guerrilla Games needs to do it. Fuck a Horizon. Nah, like I said, they can put more under their belt than just Horizon or just Killzone. They could go and do a third game, like with Naughty Dog. That going from Crash to Jack to Uncharted to Last of Us. They can move forward, but I mean, I don't know, man.
Yo,
Killzone gets too much black.
Yo, Rico, by the way, you're gonna love the fact that, because I don't know if you're looking at our chat right now, there's a lot of love for Killzone in there. As a matter of fact,
and don't even get me started on Killzone Mercenary, the best first-person shooter game on a handheld.
On the Vita, that was the best.
Not even on the Vita, on a handheld.
Yeah, that seems to be the consensus.
Please, Adam, find me.
Modern Combat 5.
I can play.
Fucking mobile game,
Adam, I knew it.
Yo, man, that game. You see, there you go.
Fuck out of here.
I don't know about that. I don't know about
Fortnite on my phone.
Excuse me?
I said first-person shooter.
Modern Combat.
Jesus Christ. Anyway, Killzone is lit.
Yeah. By the way,
it had its faults, but it also had its grades.
Yeah, Riku, Mighty Nerd, he says he got the platinum in Killzone 2, 3, and Shadowfall. So he's
same here, buddy. Yeah. Same here. I got the Killzone 3 platinum twice. The Killzone they released Killzone 3 multiplayer, where it was basically just Killzone with its multiplayer and all the DLC again as a separate trophy collection. I did all of that shit again.
I don't know where your platinum on Killzone 1
from that list though.
No platinums existed at that time, man.
At that time, yeah.
True, but he does have a point. There is a Killzone 1 HD that had trophies. I didn't get that. So exposed.
Rico, you're not a real fan.
That's
then,
true.
Son.
I ain't no real fan, man.
You're not a real fan, man.
You
only got 5. You only got 5 platinums in the series.
That's not fair. It's just what we call casual.
Oh. The Riku's on one slander is heavy tonight. Anyway, I there's obviously, as you can tell from your chat and me, there are people out there that still want Killzone.
There's a bunch of ponies in that chat, man.
Yeah, let's just be honest.
Ponies are the reason why. One of the reasons why PlayStation 4 is succeeding today. So we doing our thing. Giddy up.
You know what though? I think Killzone's a really good franchise, and I actually kind of like the later Killzone games except Shadowfall. But give me Resistance, man. Resistance is that fucking game, yo.
Here's the thing about Killzone single player. Like I said, I can't stress this enough. From a gameplay standpoint, the stuff that Killzone Shadowfall in this single player was doing with the whole the floating drone that you can send forward, swiping left or right, telling it to shoot and put up shield, that was a great concept. It was the fact that the story that you were following wasn't interesting. But honestly, I thought the gameplay behind what I was doing was not that bad. And like I said, that drone was fucking awesome. It was one of the first and probably one of the only games now, that if we're looking at all of the fucking PlayStation 4 games that have come out, that have used the DualShock 4's touchpad to a good degree. But I
they were using
digress.
Good.
They
you know?
also they're also
To a great degree. Let me
also
rephrase
what's
that,
connected.
Fred.
Also, what's connected to Shadowfall, and people kind of forgot this, is the variable resolution. Remember, that was one of the first games to have it, where they said it wasn't actually 1080p; it was a variable resolution in certain locations.
Still
Yeah.
to this day, Killzone Shadowfall looks phenomenal. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah,
But
no one's doubting that. But yeah, not, see,
yeah.
I'm glad
I
you were
mean,
here
like
for
I
this
said,
one.
it gets too much flack. It shouldn't disappear from existence. There's a lot of other franchises that should not be here today. Or Crackdown. That
oh damn! Yo, Fergus, what up, brother? All right, man. What the fuck was I gonna say now? By the way, Rico, I think I should go back and play Killzone, man.
Go back and play Killzone Mercenary if you have it on your Vita.
And I'm going to explain why. Because going back to playing Halo, because remember, when I first tried to play Halo, when it originally came out in 2001, I couldn't grasp the mechanics. They were too alien for me. And even when I tried to play games like Resistance and Killzone 2, it was still weird. I didn't understand these first-person shooting games. Now, they're second nature to me. You know, like I said, when I went... Actually, Rico, I don't know if you heard this, but when I went back to play Halo 1, remember, this game was very difficult for me when I tried to play it, right? I played it, I'm like, yo, this shit is like mechanically fucking simple, you know. So I wonder if I will have that same reaction if I play Killzone 1 and 2, you know, or Resistance.
I as far as 2, even to this day, if you hopped into Killzone 2, there's going to be a learning curve that you will experience like no other. I don't think Killzone 2 from a gameplay standpoint has aged well. That's why I'm telling you, not as a Vita fanboy. Killzone Mercenary, Guerrilla Cambridge did their thing. It had a unique melee combat feature in there where I think in Killzone 2, not Killzone 2, Killzone 3, there was something called the visceral attack or something melee. Basically, you like run up to someone, you click R3, and you basically grab them and do that's what it was called. It's called brutal melee kills, and it was, as far as I remember, during the time Killzone 3 came out, it was the first game to do something like, you know, kill someone, you know, like that. And it was fucking awesome. You run up to someone right behind their neck and just snap, and it stayed in first person, unlike these other games where it zooms out to third person and it snaps them. You stay in first person and you run upon someone from the front and gorge their eyes out in multiplayer. It was fucking awesome. And you can do something like that in Killzone Mercenary on the Vita, but they actually use the swipe feature on the Vita, and it actually works really well. Like, you running up on someone and you melee them, and it will start the whole swiping feature, and you swipe up, you stab them, which is your knife right in the bottom of their fucking throat.
It was fun.
And in the multiplayer, it had a feature where if someone ran up on you and did it, and you would see a swipe, and you can counter their melee and then freaking attack them back. You and this person are here basically having a first-person melee fight right in front of each other, and then someone can come and shoot you from behind, which is, that game is awesome, and that game has aged well. So if you were to go and try any Killzones, go play Mercenary.
Interesting. Also, I'm going to shock some people right now. I'm probably not going to do it. I got too much shit going on next month. But next month, Call of Duty Modern Warfare is going to be free on PS Plus. You know, part of me is thinking I should take up Torrance on his Call of Duty challenge.
We should do. Remember the Black Ops 3? We should do Black Ops 3 because that one has 4-player story campaign co-op.
Yeah, we'll see. The thing is, the challenge was he just wants me to play a Call of Duty game. And since Modern Warfare has, you know, historical significance, I'm like, maybe. Let's just be honest. I probably won't do it, but it's something a little kernel of me thought about.
Oh, you could play. You could play. I played Black Ops 3, and so is Adam. We could go to the story together.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
I was just talking. Yeah, no, you know, I think I have Black Ops 3, Adam, because you were telling me
it was free. Remember, it was a plus game.
I have it. But again, I was mainly because again, I really liked playing the first Halo because of the historical significance, and I think the first Modern Warfare probably has that too, even though it's not my type of game. You know, at least Halo has the sci-fi in it. You know, but yeah, Killzone. We'll see what happens, Riku. We'll see what happens.
Like I said, Mercenary. Fuck all the rest of them as far as going
like that, man.
Yeah, it's like that because, you know, honestly, you got for the rest of them. Obviously, you've already played Shadowfall. Don't worry about that one.
Yeah. I don't want to go back to that.
Yeah, and the other ones are on PS3, which nobody's trying to turn on the PS3. Maybe when you get your PS5 and it has backwards compatibility, but that's still doing too much. Like I said, 2 hasn't aged well, and I don't know about 3. Just stick to Mercenary. You still have your Vita, right? It's still sitting there.
Of course, man. But here's my quick question, because I only played I played Killzone 2, 3 demos, right? That's all my experience with Killzone. I loved how heavy the guns felt, because I feel in too many multiplayer, or not multiplayer, single player FPS games, the guns feel too floaty. They felt heavy. So does Mercenary have that too?
You would like Call of Duty then.
Yeah, 2 had that.
Now Call of Duty is mad light. It's like the guns have no weight in Call of Duty. That's one of my problems with it.
Yeah, and that's the thing. 2 made that weight just a bit too heavy, and like I said, from a learning curve standpoint, that's where a lot of, because when, I don't know if anyone remembers when Killzone 2 first came out, a lot of people complained, the controls are sluggish. Oh, what's going on here? But after they got used to all of that shit disappeared. But when it came to Killzone 3, I feel they refined that control and got the weight and the speed for the type of game that they were going for down packed. That's one of the things Killzone, like I said, other than the brutal melee, that's one of the things Killzone 3 did right. The music, the brutal melee, and refining the gunplay. And Killzone Mercenary has all of that also. So
interesting. We'll see what happens. I probably won't do it, but it's just, hey, I'm open to it.
Short. It's a really short game too. So it's not like something you're just going to be there a long time. That campaign is really short. So if you want to run in there and beat the campaign real quick and can come out, you could do that also. It's really short.
Interesting. All right, man. I think that's going to do it for us, man. Riku, I want to thank you for being on 2 shows back to back, man. Fucking awesome.
Hell shit. Yeah. Throwdown, baby.
All right. Anything you want to let the fans know about, where to find you and all that other stuff?
You can find me on Twitter at RikuSun1. But like I was telling these guys, I'm taking a hiatus from social media, so I won't be as active as I usually am. And I will be returning to the Throwdown in the summer, people.
That's going to be awesome.
Yeah. Good stuff.
I want to give a shout out to whoever snagged up that Far Cry code. Thank you for that. Hope you enjoyed. I'm glad you took the code, because when we gave out those Xbox codes the other week, nobody fucking took them. By the way, we gave away codes for fucking Gears of War. Nobody took them.
Had all those gears.
Crazy.
Bunch of ponies in that chat, man. I'm telling you.
Yeah, nobody wanted that.
Wait, but they snatched up that Far Cry real quick, so that's good. So yeah, that's gonna be that. So thank you for watching and listening. Subscribe to Throwdown on SoundCloud, iTunes, and YouTube. Follow us on Twitch, Twitter, and Facebook at Throwdown Show. Links are located in the description below. Once again, I was your host, Tony Polanco. And tonight I was joined by Emilio Lopez.
See you later, guys. Well, hopefully you will see me on the next episode of Throwdown.
Chris Seeley.
Hey, take care, everyone.
Carlos Romero.
Peace out.
Brett Murdoch.
It's some real people.
Adam Vale.
Go watch that G.I. Joe movie, the 1987 one. That shit holds up.
Hell fucking yeah. Brian Manjoma.
I'm actually excited to go see Captain Marvel.
Oh, wow. What? That's a hot take.
I haven't told you why, though.
Okay, tell off air, man. And Mr. Riku-san won.
Eiyu Densetsu Sen no Kiseki 1, aka The Legend of Heroes Trails of Cold Steel 1, comes to PlayStation 4 March 26th. It is just as good, if not better, than the Persona games. If you guys don't fucking play that game, I will fucking kill you.
Damn.
Wow.
Peace out.
Yo, man, we sponsored now?
Yeah, right. Yeah, man.
I sure am. Falcon for days, people.
There you go. For life, son. For life.
For life.
Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you for joining us again, man. We'll see you next time. Later.
Later, guys.
Peace.
See you.
See ya.